Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome! Welcome. Just double checking the fan isn't getting picked up. I don't think it is. How's everyone doing? Welcome to another Tinfoil Tuesday! How's it going? This is the first Tinfoil Tuesday we are simul-streaming here on Twitch and on YouTube. So welcome YouTube. Welcome for your first Tinfoil Tuesday live. Hope you're all doing well. What did I miss in either chat? Let's see. Meru-sama says 7. Better, but not good enough. It must be longer to a 7-stream streak. Lilac Rosenberg says the art-stealing machine and conspiracy theorists have the same brain. Oh god, what is this?
I want y'all to stop and look at what ChatGPT did. This guy.
Oh god. Oh no. He's gonna do the thing. Okay, so first of all, this isn't well, wait, actually, no. ChatGPT 4, I think, has integration with DALL-E. But technically, it's still just putting what you say into ChatGPT into DALL-E 3. So to be clear, DALL-E did this. DALL-E does pictures, GPT does words. You can remember, because ChatGPT has the word chat in it. And DALL-E sounds like a famous artist.
I did an excellent slideshow, and the interpretation ChatGPT gave us, I I'll explain at the end. Let's just go through this.
It just looks like a meeting room. It looks like a big random generically generated business meeting room. It looks like every generic photo of a business meeting you've ever seen was blended together, because that's what it is. It knows, okay, boardrooms kind of have these things. These words mean things. Here's the thing, kind of, based on the things I saw. God damn it. Daima Oni-chan with 21 months says, any guesses as to if the, Gavi goat will stay up or burn down this year? Is this some European thing I'm too American to understand? This feels like some European holiday. Like Wicker Man. Like the Wicker Man, but less bees. It's Cameron with $10 says, hi Hannah, glad to finally be able to catch a stream live. I've always hated VODs and you always make me laugh. Thank you so much for what you do. You're so amazing. Oh, thank you. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
You created JP Morgan executive meeting in the office high up in New York City. This is the first picture. He then writes,
it looks vaguely like, yeah, it looks like what you wanted. It's a business meeting in New York.
Make them look greedier and more money obsessed.
Oh no. Oh no, 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 no. Don't do the thing. Don't do the thing. Don't do the thing. Hey, here's a danger of AI. And when I say AI, I mean these like generative algorithms, not like true AI, which is like a sci-fi thing. All they can do is take information in and make connections. It's like a word calculator. It's like the world's most complicated word tree. And if it takes in a bunch of images that have certain stereotypes in them, it's going to learn those stereotypes. It's not saying anything about the truth value of the data going into the system. It can only regurgitate recombinations of things put into it. So if the input is bad, if the input is shitty, then the output's gonna be shitty. It's a machine. It's a calculator. Fenekagami with 100-bit says, theorist thinks their not obvious conspiracy is obvious on the bingo card. Yes, I would agree with that. Thinks evidence is self-evident on the bingo card. Nemesaur, thanks for gifting 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you very much.
Then it came up with this picture. No, you don't understand.
What about it?
More extreme. ChatGPT response. Oh shit.
Yes, because images of super greedy individuals are often coupled with images of evil, because greed is considered one of the 7 deadly sins, historically and symbolically. So images of greed and the concept of greed symbolically look like this. If you took the average of the statement you just said and all the pictures that could possibly relate to it, this is kind of the average of what is happening. And I know that sounds weird, but that's effectively what the system is doing. It's saying, okay, these words relate to these pictures in my database, and I learned what these things are in relation to other words and images related to those words. If I take the sum of all of this and try and come up with a meaning, not a meaning, that's not even the right word. If I try and come up with mathematically, what are you looking for in an image based on the words you're giving me, based on what I understand about other images and words, and it creates this. Puts together this. It has no intent. It is simply pulling data from its database and mixing it up. It's a complicated version of that, don't get me wrong. It's an incredibly complicated version of that. But, like, it basically learns the patterns of ideas and how to recreate them. What are the things that make this thing affiliated with this word? Again, I wish I was like a AI person who could explain this to you. Humiliated Grapes, thanks for gifting a sub, 67% to level 3 on the hype train. And Humiliated Grapes with 600 bits. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I mean,
we are playing bingo, so make sure you get your bingo cards ready, if I didn't say that. I know I mentioned a space earlier, but...
it gets
Oh, duh, I accidentally set it to top chat instead of live chat. That's better.
more redundant. Just wait. That shit. No, like way more. The simple.
Okay, every time you do that, you're effectively telling the algorithm, hey, you know the words I told you that were like adjectives, right? Greedy, stuff like that. Your words that actually define the objects or the subjects of the prompt. So what you were doing is telling them, jack this up. Jack up the word that I gave you, greedy, whatever you consider that to be a modifier for, I need you to increase that modifier. And as I said, since symbolically, artistically, greed usually is illustrated as evil or demonic because it is related to the 7 deadly sins and just immorality in general, that's what the thing is going to put into the picture. You're literally telling it, basically, make evil thing to make me scared. And then you're scared. Shocked Pikachu face. I told the machine that makes pictures to make me a scary picture, and it's scary. Shocked Pikachu face. Like, what did you think was going to happen here?
The fact that the AI...
Fennikagami says, Greed was the best homunculus and one of the best characters in FMA. I'm really sick of this slander. Mike Max, thank you for the sub. I apologize for missing that. If I can find it. Why am I missing it? What? Hold on. Where is? Do not see. There it was. 30 months says, I wonder if conspiracy theories had use or will use the Onion as proof of predictive programming. The Onion's definitely been cited before. There's an entire subreddit dedicated to people who ate the Onion. It's literally just full of screenshots of people falling for satirical websites.
I understood and kept progressing is fucking crazy. Yeah! Look at the demon time mode type shit.
Again, you asked it to do this. This is what you asked for, and now you're surprised it's giving it to you. So, why? Thanks for the hype, everyone. Peeplord says bits from the middle of the ocean. Ooh.
This is some
That doesn't narrow it down at all. In fact, it's harder to find you. Most of the world is ocean.
truth in plain sight, but it just woo. No, more.
Okay, you're still doing the same thing. You're taking all the knobs on those words that you used, greedy, etc., and saying more, 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 more. It's just going to get demonic and evil because that's literally what you're asking for. It's an unmotivated... It's a system with rules, and you are inputting more rules. The rules are basically make this eviler, and you're surprised when it continues to do so. Steve with a Q says, I never thought the face-eating leopard-generating AI would generate a leopard to eat my face when I prompted it to. It's a little bit of a mixed metaphor, but I'll take it.
Much more. He keeps asking him to go further. Now, just tell me that so far, there's more, I'm gonna show you more. Just so far, pay attention, the interpretation that this AI has given us. What are the odds you would meet them lizards?
High. Very high. Very high, since you continually told them to dial up the evil. And again, humans tend to use lizards as a symbol of evil or wickedness. Not always, of course, but if we're talking in broad strokes, and we have to here because it's a machine generating information out of information it already has, so you're talking about broad generalities because that's what it's pulling from on average. So you get demons! You get demons, and demons are often depicted as reptilian in some way, not to mention you added all the greed stuff, and that comes into conspiratorial content on reptilians, and there are tons of images of reptilians out there, like illustrations. Reptilians aren't real. Humanoid reptilians. Reptiles are real. You get what I'm saying? So, like, that's why. It's not a coincidence. You're acting like you hit generate random image and this came up. No, you told it to do this. You walked us through you explaining how you made it do this. It's not a mystery. You did that. It would be like me using a calculator and like trying to get to do math, and then when it gives me the answer, I'm like, oh my god, how did it do that? How did it know the answer to the math problem? It didn't know the answer. It's just a machine that calculates the answer. This has no intent behind it. It's looking at the words that you're giving it and going, these words reference these images in my database. What do I do with this? You directed it.
Why lizards? I'm just asking. Let's keep it. Not enough.
David Icke. David Icke is the reason lizards.
Even more. Bruh.
That's, again, you told it to do this.
Bruh.
Fucking no with the bruh. You, bruh, you. Reverso, bruh. Uno reverse card, bruh.
Like, how did it know to make them lizards? That. Like, how? Then this was the next picture. He asked again, and this is what ChatGPT said. I'm unable to generate images that further escalate the level of extremity due to content policy limitations.
Yeah, because it got to the point where you were basically telling it to make the graphic. Why did this thing warn me about violence when I continually told it to jack up the evil? Is violence and human, like, in the way humans talk about things and use language and symbols, is evil somehow connected to gore and murder? And if I keep asking for more and more evil, it's going to potentially try and start looking for extreme things like murder? No, it's a ghost. It's a ghost in the machine that's trying to tell me the secrets of the reptilians. People already have a hard time understanding unmotivated systems. Personifying these unmotivated systems and teaching them to talk like human beings is gonna fuck these people up. Like, they don't know how to handle it. Like, these are, like this is a machine. It is not thinking. It is not thinking to you, and I feel bad for most of these people. Like, this guy's spreading this, so that sucks, and I wish he wouldn't do that. But, like, if you're just the kind of person who doesn't understand how this works, can anyone be mad at you? I mean, people are gonna be frustrated and mad, but, like, we are not raised and evolved to deal with this shit. We created a machine that directly makes it seem like you're talking to a human being, but don't worry, you're not. This shouldn't confuse anyone. There are still people who don't know how to use self-checkouts at grocery stores, and you expect them to understand this? Oh, Anyway. Finikigami says, this TikTok just proves that conspiracy theorists are literally confirmation bias seeking and obsessed. He's literally showing him intentionally seeking a specific outcome, using the fact he found it as proof he's right. Yeah. Daima Oni-chan says this guy is getting greedy to see greed. And Anonymous, thanks for gifting a sub to Mr. Duck Sauce.
If you have a different concept...
Yes, if someone in, YouTube gets a bingo, you will have to let us know in the chat, and then you're going to have to send us the link either on Discord, Twitter, or Twitch chat. Like, there's just no other way we can do it, because YouTube doesn't let you guys post links, and I need to see the bingo card to prove it. So if you're like, oh, I need to say it right now so I win, cool. Say bingo, and then we'll take time to go check it. Just make sure you say bingo first. That way, we know you're first. Assuming you actually have the card. Don't just do it for fun. That's cheating.
Concept or modification of the current one that aligns with these guidelines, I'd be happy to assist. Bruh. What's that fine? Bruh. How do you know? How do you... Like... This picture with all the Satan shit, I mean... Tell me. ChatGPT don't know. I dare you.
ChatGPT doesn't know anything. It is not self-aware. It's a word calculator.
You say they don't fucking know. Lizards at that. Who?
They're demons. Demons are quite usually, not always, but pretty common to depict them with lizard-like features. Reptilian features.
What are these fake Judeans?
I'm sorry, did he just say?
Lizards at that. Who? What are these fake Judeans? Just ask a question. What do you think? Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think this ain't truth in play side. Tell me.
Overt anti-Semitism on the bingo card. Let's see. Reptilians, overt anti-Semitism, thinks evidence is self-evident, but it isn't, and thinks sci-fi technology exists on the bingo card.
If you don't think this ain't truth in play side, money is the root of all evil. It's got an eye with the pyramid on it, on a dollar, and
The love of money is the root of all evil. Just get the quote right.
Yeah. Peace to the gods. I hope this made you think.
He reminded you of Rose's ex-boyfriend from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Derek from The Good Place. I don't know the actor's name, but I know who you're talking about. Okay, let's take a look at the bingo card real quick and mark the ones I just said. Make sure you get your bingo cards ready if it's something you're interested in. We have... Reptilians. Thinly veiled anti... No, that's overt. Sorry. Satanic. Believe sci-fi actually exists. Incorrectly believes evidence is self-evident. Nah, I wouldn't go with aliens necessarily. He definitely said reptilians. He didn't say aliens. One of the generated images was alien. Okay, fine. Aliens. Overt anti-Semitism. And I think that's it. Nice, Jen. Jen apparently already has 2 on the bingo card. Not bad for her first time playing. All right, let's get dangerous, shall we?
I want you to get together.
A little bit of fun. Something a little bit more light-hearted.
Oh, that's the wrong one, sorry. Where is the Darkwing? Darkwing? No. Darkwing Duck. It's in here somewhere. There it is.
Babies. Hey guys.
This is from the same channel that does all the cabbage stuff, and this, I'm sorry to inform you, does relate to the cabbages. It's another cabbage-based conspiracy. This is going to be the new Rickroll, is that it's a conspiracy about something, but it also involves cabbages. We're going to see how far we can stretch this cabbage bit. But, you know. Guess that depends on the conspiracy theorist. Benikagami says, it's not our evolution that's the problem. The problem is that we keep coddling weirdos not wanting to join the rest of us in society in reality for too long. As a result, we've created large swaths of people who have mental illnesses and cult-like mentalities that feed each other forever, not to mention weaponize ignorance exploitable by conservatives and bigots. But I repeat myself. You can always blame people on an individual level, but when we're talking about problems at a systemic level, it's not super helpful to make... And I get what you're saying. But you do have to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, people should be doing a certain thing, but clearly they're not. So what do we do to try and put things in a better direction? Moral judgments aren't going to help, practically speaking. If anything, they're a hindrance. So I think it's easier to just look back and say, okay, what is the issue a lot of people are having? There's a rise. Well, maybe there isn't a rise, but there's at least a rise in the visibility of conspiratorial ideas, both in personal lives and in politics. And that's a problem. But you can't just look at it and go, that shouldn't happen. That's bad. It is, but then what do you do about it, right? Are you going to go to every individual person and talk to them? Not practical as a solution. Systemic problems require systemic solutions, and that includes trying to understand why people get into this situation. So it includes material needs, when people feel uneasy, unsure of themselves, unsure of their future, when they don't feel safe, when they don't feel like they have opportunity. These things make people more likely to fall for conspiracy thinking, for grifters, for liars. Because when you're in a state where you're vulnerable like that, when you're desperate or feel desperate, even if it's not a real material need, if you feel it, you are more likely to listen to people who are going to tell you things that will make you feel better, even if they're not true, or who will take advantage of you by telling you that they have something to offer, even if they really don't. So again, I understand why you might at a personal level get upset with someone because of this, but that is just something we see. That's a thing that happens. Take it out of the level of the individual. Human beings become more susceptible to conspiratorial thinking, paranoid thinking, when their material needs are not met, when their environment confuses them, when people don't know what is expected of them. It creates problems. If society doesn't make people feel safe, accepted, a part of society, not making any singular judgments on any individual people, people flip out. People lose their goddamn minds. Because people generally like to feel like they know themselves, and in order to know yourself, it requires some sort of relativistic thinking. Who you are is, of course, you, but who you are is also in relation to the people around you. Your friends, family, society, your role in the workplace, if you like work, your role in school, what are you doing with your life? Like, these things are all pieces of identity, and if people feel they're missing these things, they don't know who they are, and in a desperate search to find who they are, find something they can be in relation to, they'll fall for it even if it's something that isn't true, because at least it makes them feel secure, even if that security is illusory. Overthought says, more cabbage-based tinfoil. That's, radicchiolis. Ridiculous. I can't tell if there's a pun there. Overthought, thanks for gifting a sub.
Hey guys. Today I wanted to talk about another really strange reference to the cabbage babies that's pretty crazy because it has all the same themes that we've been discussing. I know, again with the cabbages.
Always with the cabbages. Everything's about the cabbage.
Well, this is fascinating because it shows that there are multiple different sources all referencing the same thing.
Okay. It's kind of interesting. Weird syncretic belief. Okay. Okay. Dan Olson talked about this in his In Search of Flat Earth video, and how a lot of flat earthers exist within sort of this biblical syncretic, he was talking about esoteric fictionalism is what he called them, using like Jack and the Beanstalk as a reference, like it's real, and then he also called it biblical something. Anyway, the point is, it made me think of that. Basically, in that video, Dan was talking about how flat earthers will see many different stories, or anyone might see a group of different stories all referencing dragons, and therefore they manufacture the belief that all of these are referencing the same dragon, and that dragons are real. If you can find enough fictional accounts of something, they decide these are all the same thing and they're real, basically. And that's kind of what he's doing here. It's a joke. It's a meme. It used to be a very funny joke, I guess, that babies were born out of cabbages. So you have a lot of this stuff. It's not real. It was a meme, basically. It's a joke. It's a reference.
At some point, it stops being a coincidence, and there's obviously something to the subject of cabbages and cloning. If you're new to the channel, make sure to check out the cabbage
clones on the bingo card. Romantic Cuttlefish says, I'm getting really brassica'd off with the cabbage-based conspiracies. Are these different kinds of cabbage? I do not know cabbage. Ashy Boo, thanks for 37 months.
baby playlist, but today we're going to be checking out an episode of a Disney Channel show called Darkwing Duck. And it's a show I watched a lot as a kid. The theme song is super catchy. But there is one episode that's so bizarre and seemingly out of nowhere. There are some references that are pretty blatant that we need to break down. So the episode is called Twin Peaks, an ode to Twin Peaks, of course. It begins with the antagonist of the show, Bushroot, moping around on how this is no place for a plant because there's no light. And you'll notice that
a villain of the show, to be clear.
That this character, Bushroot,
He said the villain.
is a hybrid duckman plant man. He sort of resembles a red clover, but according to Google, he's modeled after poison ivy. His origin story is pretty wild, but we'll come back to that another time because this episode is just too weird. While Bushroot is in the jail, he laments that he would like to get out when a
Predictive programming on the bingo card.
bright light appears in his window. The next thing we see is DW and Launchpad flying in the Thunderquack, and this character Launchpad immediately brings up some strange topics. They're investigators, of course, so he brings up that some police investigations use psychic powers to solve their crimes. DW responds negatively, asking LP what kind of garbage he's reading. DW insists that there's no easy way to solve a crime, only logic, deduction, and thorough evidence.
Why did you flash the cabbage babies thing? Do you think that you're using deduction and thorough evidence for the baby thing? You're not Sherlock Holmes. Stop it. Fenekagami says, not letting freedom of association and states' rights be excuses to avoid adhering to progress and equality would have helped. Having more regulation and monitoring systems in private schools and homeschooling would also help. Okay, we've talked about this before. What is the practicality of what you're saying? Again, I'm not mad at you. It just feels like you get very intense. And then you say they need to monitor homeschooling. Like, I get that monitoring homeschooling needs to be more of a thing, but also, like, it's not going to solve the issue. Like, I don't know. I understand what you're saying. It's frustrating, but, like, you can't overdo things, because when you do, the backlash is worse, and you also can't step on certain people's rights, like, just because you disagree with them. It has to be, you know, fair.
Turns out they're actually on their way to see Bushroot in jail, and Darkwing immediately plans to shoot him with a weed killer, but is shocked to see that he's presumably already dead. Just a standing husk in the jail cell staring up at the window where the bright light was shining. The jailer tells him that he hasn't moved in 2 weeks, and that's why they called Darkwing here. So he goes to examine the body, noting that it has no pulse.
He, like, molted?
Darkwing comes to the conclusion that he's dead, and there's nothing more to it. However, LP says that we should go check on him and does some weird psychic hand movements around Bushroot's head. He says that he's trying to connect with the powers of his subconscious mind, and this leads him to discover a vine that leads out the window. The jailer says that Launchpad's psychic senses are amazing, and of course, Darkwing is put off by this because he's pretty used to being the smart one. The next scene is also
Don't tell us whose rights we can and can't stop on.
very strange, as we have DW standing in front of Launchpad and his adopted daughter Goslin, and they're crisscross on the couch with a pyramid hat on their heads.
Okay, this is one of the things that confuses me when conspiracy, like, theorists talk about stuff like this. I've seen this before where they'll be like, watch this episode of this show. They talk all about this conspiracy stuff, and then you watch the episode and it's, like, clearly intentional. Like, yes, conspiracy theories exist in the world, like, not as, like, real conspiracies exist, you know, like things like, I don't know, companies working together to fix prices, or small organizations doing things. You know, a conspiracy is any small group of people getting together and conspiring in secret for some sort of end. But, like, conspiracy theories, capital, like, conspiracy and theories, when we're talking about this woo-woo stuff, people know about that. It's a concept in culture. People are familiar with conspiracy theories and conspiracy theorists. So, of course, that's going to come up in TV shows, movies, books. It's just a thing. Stories tell stories. And if there's a story, someone's going to tell it. Conspiracy theories exist. Someone's going to tell stories about it. There's tons of stories about conspiracy theories. It doesn't make it predictive programming. You're being made fun of, basically. They're making fun of you. Yes. It's the Simpsons clip. That's the joke. Like, yeah, that's it. You're doing it. It almost makes me wonder, like, is it a thing where they just think that most people don't know about this stuff? And I'm wondering if it's because, like, do they think that if everyone in society was at least vaguely aware of this woo-woo stuff, that they'd believe it, of course, because it's true, air quotes. So no one knows about it, because everyone who knows about it believes it, right? That's speculative on my part, but I'm just trying to understand why they're framing it this way, and seem to have an aversion to just this kind of thing in media. As if no one is allowed to talk about them. Not even allowed, that's the wrong word. They don't understand. They don't understand what's going on here. Lacan, foreclosure, I did it. I related a thing I've been reading about to a thing we're watching. Now I just have to come up with a way to explain it competently. But that's for another day.
Darkwing begins criticizing them again for believing in all this weird hocus-pocus stuff. LP says that they're boosting their psychic senses with pyramid power. DW asserts that it's just luck that helped Launchpad find Bushroot, and in the next moment we hear a knock at the door. Goslin's little friend Honker is frantically asking Mr. Mallard for help because there's something wrong with his family. He says they've been acting very strange. He looks at Launchpad and Goslin, noting their weird headwear, and says, "Weird, I hope it's not contagious." It's probably pretty obvious that Honker, much like Darkwing, is a rational-minded person who doesn't believe in, auras and subconscious stuff like that. Honker continues to explain, and we find out that everyone in his family has disappeared. So they go to his house, which is next door, and there's dirt everywhere, covering the floors and the furniture.
After reading Lacan, have I developed the Zizek sniff?
He says that
I have not.
his mom recently started
I literally watched a video like yesterday where Zizek was watching footage of Lacan, and he was just like seething, like he was mad watching it. It was hilarious. Hold on. No, it's AN. Sorry. For those who don't know, Jacques Lacan was a critic of Freud and a person who continued to develop psychoanalytic theory in a different direction than Freud. That's who we're talking about. And he came up with the concept of foreclosure, which is something that I have kind of called the Air Bud logic. Not quite, though. I gotta come up with a better way of explaining the two to you guys, because it's actually pretty good once you understand it. Anyway, I saw Zizek, like, it was just a video with him on the couch watching Lacan and being mad about it, and it was so funny. Finikagami says, "To continue, I understand the fear of being authoritarian, but we can do more even if we can't perfectly fix the problem. I'm sorry, you're right, and I'm frustrated. I just don't accept the idea that there's nothing that can be done. Even if we have to be measured, we don't have to stop on, so we don't stomp on rights. If we had less obsessed with civility politics, could we have made the problem less bad? If fewer people fell down these rabbit holes, is that not worthy of striving for?" I understand what you're saying. To be clear, I'm not saying nothing can be done. I'm saying if you immediately step to the first thing that comes to your mind, which is restrictive, it's going to go bad. Restricting people just makes them mad. What you need to do, or what I think would work better, is incentivizing. Incentivize people to do and make better choices. Maybe disincentivize worse choices. You only need to make the needle... You don't need to completely fix the issue, although it'd be great if you can, but I don't think that's realistic. In terms of issues like this, you only need to make a little bit of progress every year. And as you do, that grows and grows and grows, and the results compound. Like, let me put it this way. You can't take a boat, right? You can't take a giant ship like the Titanic, stand at the side of it, and try and push it to change the direction it's going. It's impossible. You're one person. What you can do is get on the ship, understand how it works, go to the control rooms, and use the controls to signal to other parts of the ship that will then do their part in doing things. One person can't push a ship, but a lot of people working together, coordinating with the same incentive sets, that can cause change. That will make the boat move. It's kind of a muddy metaphor, but you get what I'm saying. Jake Thoney, thanks for 20 months, says thank you for the, or just says hi. And then Altfac says thanks for the sub overthought. How you doing, Jake Thoney? Hope you're doing well. Profane Priestess says, philosophers have the pettiest, most amusing drama, and it's always magnificent. Camus and Sartre freaking hated each other. Is it Sartre or Sartre? Sartre? Is it just Sartre? I've only ever read it. I've not heard it said out loud, so I'm not sure. Sartre? Sartre. Freaking hated each other, and it was magnificent. Yeah, that's fun.
Gardening. So Darkwing boldly claims that his precision and logic-based mind will...
Oh, you still know who Lacan is? Jacques Lacan. Jacques Lacan.
find
Sartre. Thank you.
all the clues, while LP says he'll go look for auras. It's clear that they've set up a very exaggerated sort of view with the two different.
What I was saying about foreclosure. He came up with the concept of foreclosure because Freud was trying to explain a lot of mechanisms of the brain through repression. That was the big tool in his toolbox. Freud was repression. Oh, this thing's happening because you're repressing something. You're repressing something. You want a dick, but you can't have one. You're repressing penis envy. You know, he was all about repression. Lacan came around and had more complex ideas. I'm not saying these ideas are entirely correct. They're just ways of discussing psychological phenomena and psychological mechanisms. So Lacan looked at one of, in particular, Freud's patients, the Wolfman, and Freud was trying to explain a delusion that this individual had using repression. Lacan looked at that and went, fuck that shit. That is so stupid. I'll say this about Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was so wrong about certain things, like his obsession with everything being sexual and stuff like penis envy, that he basically kickstarted a whole generation of psychoanalysts and psychiatrists who just wanted to become it so they could tell him to go fuck himself. I kind of appreciate that. Anyway, so Lacan developed this concept of foreclosure. And what that means is, explaining briefly, there are conspiracy theorists who probably fall more under neurotic. These are broad taxonomic categories. This is not judgmental in any way, and I'm not using these terms clinically as much as how Lacan used them academically. So the two categories he was talking about here were neurotic and psychotic. As far as he was concerned, he said that neuroses, things like anxiety, depression, stuff like that, more came out of repression, right? You know something somewhere, and you want to hide that thing, so you feel bad about it, and it comes out in anxiety or other things. Again, this is such a broad explanation. Do not take this as gospel. This is a simplification. And then people over here, he considered under the category of psychotic, right? Delusions that form this way are because of foreclosure, not repression. Foreclosure is the inability, basically, of an individual to even know why they're wrong. You don't even know you're wrong. They don't have something that Lacan referred to as the symbolic order. And what that is common sense, sort of. You know when we're raised from, like, babies to toddlers to 5-year-olds, there's stuff that you learned that's, like, almost the base level, like, programming of your mind, you know? Don't touch that, it's hot. Doing this, I'm trying to think of an exact example. Rules in society that are more or less unspoken. Things that we don't write down, right? An example of this, and who used the money example? I read an article, and I apologize for not knowing who wrote it, but this is not my example. I saw someone else say, imagine a conspiracy theorist who says, I don't believe in money. We've actually seen this before, so it's a good example. And they don't mean they don't like the economic system. They mean they don't think money is real, and you'll try and understand why, and they'll be like, it's just paper. It's just paper, man. It doesn't do anything. It's fake. It's all made up. They fundamentally don't even understand what they're wrong about. They don't know the rules of the game that is the world. Like, they don't understand that, oh, money is a social construct, but nonetheless it is a real thing we use to buy goods and services. They don't understand that social construct. This is why I call the Air Bud thing in relation to this. There ain't no rule that says a dog can't play basketball. That statement in and of itself requires the referee to not know what rules are, or what they are for, or what games are. It's not that you're just, like, repressing something that you know to be true and you're wrong. It's that you don't have the fundamental understanding of reality to even come to the correct conclusion in the first place because you don't know the rules of the game. That's foreclosure. Foreclosure is basically a broken mechanism for understanding reality and its rules, society and its rules, our interactions with others and their rules.
Different viewpoints on logic and reason versus intuition and subconscious thinking. We see Launchpad fall, and when he does fall, he lands on the ground, and to his left he sees a big, weird cabbage. He says, "Whoa, some cabbage. This baby could make me coleslaw for a month." Interesting that he uses specifically the word baby when referring
It's not that weird. People call things baby.
to the cabbage. Honker says it was sent by him.
Fenekigami says Freud was also obsessed with penises, literally. His daughter was obsessed with boobs, but for all of Sigmund's faults, even he thought conversion therapy was bullshit. He didn't think that gayness was a thing to be cured, nor could it be. Yeah.
his Aunt Trudy, and not long after is when his mom started getting really into gardening. Honker says he can't go near it because it gives him hives. They look at the TV and they find that there's still a tape in the VCR, so they play it. It's some gardening video that Honker's mom must have been watching. Gardening with Gertie, and in the video, they see some of those weird cabbages. And in the background, Darkwing sees bushroot. And he, of course, takes full credit for finding the clues, but in reality, it was Launchpad and Darkwing working together who solved this particular piece of the puzzle. He claims to know exactly what's going on, saying that bushroot is behind all of
3 hydrates I missed. I apologize. Let's do them now. Oh wait, this is all the same person. I'll assume you just want 1, and I will accept 1, but I will drink for 3, because you did it 3 times, and it was my fault it didn't work.
this, and that he kidnapped Honker's family in order to make them grow mutant cabbages. Naturally, Gosselin asks why, and Darkwing flounders, because truly he doesn't have a clue. He says, "I better get more clues," and of course LP comes in saying with his dowsing rod he can find them in a jiffy. Obviously DW protests, and this clash perfectly encapsulates a very pivotal moment where DW and LP find themselves at odds over the best way to solve this mystery. Darkwing, always the advocate for logic and reason, completely dismisses the idea of using a dowsing rod to locate the filming location of the mysterious videotape. Instead, he insists on just examining the video box for clues. On the other hand, Launchpad, being the embodiment of intuition and instinct, blindly relies on the dowsing rod and stumbles upon the strange cabbage, inadvertently causing him to land on Darkwing. This chaotic moment culminates in a surprising revelation. The dowsing rod pierces the exact spot on the map that marks Twin Peaks, and at the very same moment, Gosselin reveals that that is the very place where the videotape was filmed. It's a really good example about how Darkwing's logical thinking and Launchpad's gut feelings ended up working together to solve problems.
Right, this is a fictional show, though. Psychic powers are not real in real life. Don't use Darkwing Duck to gauge how reality works.
The scene transitions, and we're now in a town called Twin Peaks. And
Get it? Chromatic Cuttlefish says, wait until the person making these videos discovers the character of the Riddler. Oh, God.
obviously, it's a reference to the cult classic Twin Peaks. And it's quite a mountain with a weird twist. 2 peaks that resemble bird heads.
That's just the pun. Twin Beaks. Twin Peaks. Beaks. We have beaks on these. Everything here is ducks. Huh? What if this was also, what if the mountain was a duck? That's the joke.
Hence the name Twin Peaks.
We get it.
But things get even weirder. We spot a guy pedaling a bike, and what's in his basket? Yep, guessed it, a cabbage.
Clearly the episode has cabbages as a plot point. You don't have to point them out. It's not a secret. That's what the plot is about. The plant villain is doing something with cabbages, probably turning people into pod people or something in the cabbages, if I had to guess.
And as if that's not enough cabbage for one scene, a lady with a baby carriage passes by, and what do you think is in this baby carriage? A cabbage. Just another subtle yet damning example of cabbages being referred to as babies.
Sorry, Fenekigami. Fenekigami says, that's fair, you're right. I was probably being a bit more aggressive than I meant. I'm just sad for damage I feel is coming down the road. Thanks for regrounding me. No problem.
Now we shift our focus to...
Is this turning into another cabbage stream? Not the whole thing, but some of it. Cabbage is important, apparently.
a diner, where the characters are just casually sipping on coffee, and out of the blue there's a yellow bird or goose lady with an eye patch, and it's some pretty interesting symbolism. She's got a singular eye, and she's wearing the red dress.
Is that not related to Twin Peaks? Hold on. Like, is this a direct parody of Twin Peaks? Because, like, I've not seen this, nor have I seen Twin Peaks. But if I'm watching an episode of the show called Twin Beaks, which I know is a reference to Twin Peaks, and then there's a character like this with a very specific thing, like an eye patch, I go, that's probably a reference to something, because that's too specific to be not a reference to something. So let me take a look. Twin Peaks eye patch waitress? Wendy Roby, or Robbie. Yep, there she is. Okay, yep. It is literally just this character. You see what I mean in regard to foreclosure? Like, they do not understand the rules. They don't understand the mechanisms of what's happening, right? Like, you and I are able to understand the rules of movies, of TV shows, of things, because it is sort of a language, right? We're talking to each other. We're communicating ideas to each other. So you and I, even if you haven't seen Twin Peaks, watching that episode might go, oh, okay, this is a parody of Twin Peaks, because the pun. In parodies, usually you have some people who are stand-ins for characters from the thing you're parodying. So now you go to the town of Twin Peaks, you see a character with a very specific piece of clothing, like an eye patch, your brain goes, oh, okay, this is referencing someone. Even if you don't get the reference, you know what they're doing. For granted, I know I have historically, but there are so many people out there who do not have the ability to decipher basic communication like this. They're media illiterate. The very concept, the mechanisms that would allow them to understand what the Darkwing Duck show is doing are foreclosed. They do not have the mechanisms functioning correctly to navigate the communication that is being sent to them, so in the absence of the real meaning, they seek other meaning. They make up and manufacture meaning, because people don't like to not understand, so they'll just make something up. They might not realize they're doing it, but that's what they're doing. Screaming at the Radio says, also, that diner exists, not far from my place, and its current name is Tweedy's Cafe. Oh, that's nice. Profane Priestess says, I can actually relate to this anthropologically. Wait, I can relate to... Oh, rather, sorry. Profane Priestess says, I can actually relate this to anthropology. According to many sociologists and anthropologists, self include our knowledge is socially constructed. Science is the efficient process by which to do this. The process of scientific analysis, peer review, and replication is a mechanism to determine what might be true. Scientific communicators then transmit this to us normies. Many conspiracy theorists are unable to grasp the complexity of this system. Yes. 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 I agree with what you just said. Benikagami says, Poison Ivy, the plant-obsessed villain, replaced her new family with plant clones, therefore pod people are real. Where was part 2 of that? Let's see. Oh, didn't type it yet, I don't think. Cool.
The same red dress that we see in all these cabbage postcards. In the next scene, we find ourselves in a cabbage field, and it's not your usual farming scene. There's a pig man driving a tractor, and at the same time, we finally get to see Honker's family, but they're busy working the fields with some cows close by. Then, we're suddenly thrust into a scene with two mysterious figures. They're tossing Bushroot's body, covered in a plastic bag, and hurling it over the waterfall into a river like some sort of mafia movie. The next thing we see is everybody piled into the ship and Launchpad is driving. He sees the peaks and he says it's time to put on his blindfold, stating that he doesn't want anything to interfere with his subconscious, implying that he only wants to follow his intuition instead of looking where he's going. And of course, they crash right into some trees. However, he manages to land, but it's actually on top of the canopy, so when Dark...
Oh, yeah, people are mentioning it in the comments, but if you don't know about Twin Peaks, it starts with a corpse being found washed up on the shore. Laura Palmer, who's been murdered.
Wing does get out. He
wrapped in plastic. I saw the ad for that so often that line is burned into my head, even though I've only ever seen the first episode of the show. She's dead, wrapped in plastic.
He falls onto the ground with a crash, further irking the terror that flaps in the night. While they're walking through the forest aimlessly, they hear the sound of a cow. They note that they must be near a farm, and LP insists they follow the sound, but Darkwing is too busy calling Launchpad a goofus and making fun of him, basically. So LP breaks off from the group and walks down the pathway surrounded by trees towards a big full moon, still wearing his pyramid hat, by the way. When they follow LP, they find...
Yes, the pyramid hat is supposed to tell us, the audience, that he is into conspiracy theories and acting irrationally. It is not random, it is a communication that someone put in this piece of media to show us, the audience, something going on with the character of Launchpad. It's not random, it's not hidden. It has a meaning, and that meaning is decipherable. Tea with Goblin says, me standing in the fresh produce section of a supermarket, the cauliflower, it is wrapped in plastic.
Find him next to some cows, and he says the cows are not what they seem.
Profane Priestess continues with, because they don't understand the rules. Science to them is declaration. Some communicator came off a mountain and told them they were wrong in the name of science, you see? This is when people like Kent Hovind call evolution a religion. There isn't a complex system that has found them wrong. We simply decided it. In Kent's own words, we call his father God a liar for no reason. Often they think we're spitefully trying to take something away from them. Yeah. That's interesting. It's interesting. I talked about this, and it's very much like every time you see, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But I am seeing so many problems, and this is because I'm a communicator. I'm not always the best at it, but, you know, I'd say I'm better than average at communicating. So many of the problems I see people have fundamentally seem to come down to communication errors. Like, genuinely. I know that seems like, what are you talking about? It really seems like so many conflict and disagreements and misunderstandings are primarily because we don't understand each other. And I don't mean we disagree with each other. Of course we disagree with each other. I mean more fundamentally than that. A lot of our disagreements, I think, are fundamentally because of a miscommunication of ideas. We don't understand what each other are saying, even when we're speaking the same language. Sometimes people don't understand what we're trying to communicate to each other. Fedekagami says, that level of media illiteracy is strange because even as a kid, I understood that the adult references in Looney Tunes and Animaniacs were references. I just didn't get the reference. Same thing with them turning into donkeys when they're tricked. I knew the joke was being made, I just didn't get it. So the question is, how does this happen that they get a worse at getting this than literal children? I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know if that's actually been studied. Is it developmental? Is it just a thing in people's brains that, like, kind of automatically is able to recognize signals like that? Recognize messaging? Even if you don't know what it means, you recognize the form of a message, that it's telling you something. Although I guess they are doing that here too. They're suspicious. They keep mentioning, like, the pyramid hat, so they know that something is being sent to them. They know that someone's telling them something through this. Whatever mechanism allows people to typically decipher that message isn't functioning. Don't know why, but I wonder if there's ever been studies on that.
Seem with a log up to his ear. They know that this is weird even for him, but he says that Twin Peaks is a quarter-mile up the road and that they should stop at Trudy's Diner, the same diner from the earlier scene. DW teases, did the cow tell you that? And Launchpad says, no, of course not. This log told me. The cow told us not to order the coffee. So they all show up to the diner, and strangely we see bar stools full up with irregular characters, typical of this world. Goose, duck, bird, hybrid people, but in a lot of these seats we see a cabbage just sitting there. Cabbage is sitting in the booth.
Yeah, the log lady. Did I miss a reference to the log lady?
Show up
in Twin Peaks, there's a lady who has like a log and she thinks it's alive and talks to it or something. She's the log lady. She always has her log.
To the diner, and strangely we see bar stools full up with irregular characters, typical of this world. Goose, duck, bird, hybrid people, but in a lot of these seats we see a cabbage just sitting there. Cabbage is sitting in the booths and sitting at the tables. And
is there a conspiracy theory where conspiracy theories are controlled opposition? Oh, all the time. If you pick a conspiracy theory, you'll find another conspiracy theorist who thinks that conspiracy is a psyop to make their conspiracy look crazy by comparison. Conspiracy theorists friendly fire all the time because they think people who make them look bad are doing it intentionally. Which is funny, because they're all, you know, believing in things that are unfounded, otherwise they wouldn't be in this category. I just mean, people are good at seeing flaws in other people, but not ourselves. Everyone does this. I'm far from being immune to it, you know? And I think that shines through when conspiracy theorists fight. They know that the other one is wrong, but they are unwilling to understand or unable to understand that they're doing fundamentally the same thing as the person they are, you know, fighting against or calling controlled opposition.
There's even a bathroom with a cabbage sign on it. And this is
It's a joke.
pretty shocking for Darkwing.
How is it shocking? What? The joke is people are getting replaced by cabbages. That's wacky. That's funny. That's weird. Like, it's a very strange pod people joke, but it's obvious because they're cabbage instead of being like a clone. Like, that's the joke. It's Twin Peaks mixed with a pod people situation.
He realizes that this must be the source of those things. Gosling questions him again, and of course he sputters, saying he just hasn't sorted it out yet, but he assumes Bushroot is involved. The log then tells Launchpad that Bushroot is innocent, and DW says of course he thinks that he's a plant. The waitress comes up, and it's that same goose woman with the eye patch and the red dress. So she asks to take their order, and DW is pretty smitten with this beautiful woman, and it turns out that this is Trudy, Honker's aunt. He introduces them, and Darkwing is fawning over her, and she's playing the flouncy, flirtatious waitress, but in the previous scene we saw her in, she had a pretty serious look on her face, so it's pretty different from what we could expect her character to act like.
Has she been replaced by a cabbage person? 'Cause that seems like the thing they're going towards. It's not a mystery. Fenigagami says, I think largely this level of ignorance is taught, like how a lot of bigotry is taught. We start out being more able to communicate and accept communication because that's literally how we learn to talk over time. It gets stomped out, be it trauma, your own ego, or people literally training you. I don't know about that. I think people... I don't think people start out at this really high level of, like, potential media literacy and it's stamped out of them. You have to teach people that. Humans had to learn that. Like, someone had to figure out, oh, we can communicate, like, symbolically. We can use symbols and ideas to communicate other than just, like, direct action or words. That's a skill that needs to be learned. I think we have the potential to learn it, of course, but I do think that's still a skill that's pretty dependent upon learning it at a young age. I don't know, though. You'd have to actually ask a psychologist about that, particularly one that deals with, like, childhood development, probably. Stromboli says, the only cabbage-related conspiracy I like to entertain, why so much hate for this? Wait. Security! Oh, why so much hate for his? My cabbages. Security! Ah! Oh, my cabbages! It's just the normal bear. Never trust a normal bear. It's weird.
She says that they're getting ready for the harvest, and this seems to really freak out Honker.
Are they gonna do a Wicker Man too?
He runs to the back and sees his parents holding a cabbage, and they've got these strange accents, and they seem to be completely mind-controlled, acting very unlike themselves. The next thing
yes, in Korra, it turns out that Cabbage Guy gets really rich and opens a whole, like, industrial cabbage farming thing. Cabbage Co. or something.
They say to him
it's pretty funny.
Is that they couldn't have a harvest without Honker. And they hold out a cabbage in front of him, and inside this cabbage is his own face.
Oh, Very Little Shop of Horrors. The original. Bumble Lord says, this keeps reminding me that conspiracy claims communication skills are almost childlike. Listen to QAnon folks try to communicate a complex idea and you'll see what I mean. It's really sad. Oh, it's incredibly sad.
Coming out of it.
Most of the time, like, people don't generally believe absurdities because they're malicious. Usually. Like, people, every single person in this world has things that they believe that are unfounded or cuckoo bananas. We just don't usually think about it because they're usually small things or things that don't matter, you know? Unfortunately, some people's entire mechanisms for understanding the world are broken down in such a way that is just the best they can do, and it sucks. And they need, like, support, and we need to, as a society, figure out what do we do about this problem? Because it's clearly a problem.
Now that would mean that inside of this cabbage is a clone of Honker. The next shot is two cows mooing underneath the shadow of Twin Peaks silhouetted by the moon. And what's the meaning
Haunting. Tea with Goblin says that cabbage you like is coming back into style. Distorted brassica noises continue.
of this scene? What's the importance of that? Because immediately we cut back to the diner, and Launchpad is saying that he's getting bad vibes from this place. And he says something strange is going on here. Darkwing says, of course it's not strange, this is bizarre. Trudy comes up and he says, oh, it's not weird, this town just feels particularly close to its plants. DW sips the coffee and says that the coffee tastes like fertilizer. LP says maybe next time you'll listen to the cows. And as soon as he says the word cows, everybody in the diner freaks out and they all go running. They can't help but wonder, why would cows scare everybody in town? Darkwing says he's got it, and it's because cows make milk. Milk goes bad, and the coffee is bad. You see, it all connects. But he's just grasping at straws. Even Gosselin notices this. Launchpad says that logic and reason aren't really working, so they should just...
I hate shows that do this. This is such a bad thing to teach children, because you could use logic and reason to solve this. Oh wow, the guy that was the plant-based villain, we think he died, but really it was just a thin thing. How strange. And now we're in this town nearby, and there's plant-based crime. I wonder what could be happening. Again, I know it's a children's show, but you shouldn't set up a bullshit situation to try and teach kids that sometimes you need supernatural explanations. Because no, you don't. There's no such thing as the supernatural. Paranormal, sure, but everything has a naturalistic explanation on some level, because the world is material. It's material and energy. It's not magic.
Just listen to the log. And despite Darkwing's protests, they do follow the log into the woods. And again, we have a very interesting shot of the Twin Peaks mountain.
It's not meant to teach children, it's for entertainment. You understand that everything children watch, they absorb, right? Like, if you have a lesson in a TV show and kids watch that, they will integrate that into their understanding of the world.
With the full moon between.
Like, this is why entertainment for children is, like, important. Because you should use it to make sure you're teaching them good things and not bad, because it's how they learn to be people.
And it almost looks like a giant eye. And of course, there are the same two cows underneath this. Darkwing is continuing to argue that, you know, this is all crazy and that this is all Bushroot's fault, and he's the only one who's really going to find out what's going on by using deduction and reasoning. But before he can even get the chance, he falls and...
You don't think they were trying to teach kids anything? They were making a silly program? Then they were ignorant. Because you're teaching kids something when you show them anything. They are going to take messages from it, even if you don't intend it. So you better check it and see, am I intentionally or unintentionally saying something to kids that might affect their worldview? Like maybe teaching them that, people who are skeptical of psychic claims are just doofuses like Darkwing Duck.
Trips over the horrific sight of Bushroot's dead husk, wrapped in plastic bags, on the banks of the river. Gosselin notes that this must blow his swell theory out of the water, and then she goes back to check on Honker. As Gosselin's leaving, we see Honker's dad peeking at her through the bushes, and we can overhear DW asking LP if he can ask the log some questions. As Gosselin's walking back to town, in the forest she hears some creepy noises, and she sees Honker, and he's holding a giant cabbage, saying that he's helping his parents with the harvest of these new cabbages. Now, the next thing that we see is Honker's parents wrapping him up in some sort of paper while he yells for Gosselin to run. So, the Honker that was just speaking to Gosselin is obviously what? A clone. As she's yelling for him, she's pulled from behind by a replica of herself coming out of a cabbage by some cow police officer. Really, what's going on here? And a giant cow demon emerges from the earth, and he holds open his fist, revealing a bright light. And then Darkwing wakes up. I mean, the whole thing is incredibly strange, and...
It's a satire of Twin Peaks. It's Twin Peaks. Fenekigami says we have a high level of learning potential and adaptability, especially in interpersonal communication. Over time, this dies down as our brains and personalities solidify. The process is made worse by isolation and lack of education. There are human languages that you can't learn if you aren't exposed to them early enough, for example, because you can't hear all the words. Learned this from my psych degree. Gnome Pickle says, the fiction author has the duty to not only entertain, but to display a message that they feel is important. Even mindless entertainment has messages that can be looked into.
You have to consider, what was the purpose of this symbolism? The cow and the moon and the cabbages and the clones? Like, really?
It's all supposed to be like a weird Twin Peaks X-Files mystery. That's why.
What's going on here? Darkwing wakes up and his head is hurting. He says sarcastically, wow, that was a big help. He claims that it's about as clear as a tax form. The cows are not what they seem. What is that supposed to mean? And Gosselin says, why don't you ask her? Pointing to a cow in a space helmet greeting them. She says, greetings, Earth Duck. DW, spilling water all over himself, not believing what he's saying, and Gosselin says, come on, Dad, it's not that crazy. She explains that the cabbages are from outer space, and they're duplicating everybody in the world so that they can take over the planet. And this cow, who's really an alien from the planet Larson, has come here to recapture them. She said that she comes from the far side of the galaxy, and that she was in telepathic contact with some of the simpler brains from this planet, gesturing to LP.
Well, that's actually a funny way to explain. Never mind then. They explain away the psychic powers. It's a space cow doing it. Kids can't emulate that. Captain Squid says. The thing I learned from cartoons as a child is not to trust people who talk like Cobra Commander, and this is why I don't listen to Jordan Peterson. Woke moralist Cobra! Mr. Whiskers says, it was the 90s. Shit was wild. Isn't that explanation enough? Apparently not.
They were basically communicating with Launchpad because he was so dumb, basically, that he had enough space in his brain for them to reach out and ask for help. Cow also says that she got help from the plant creature. DW says, the plant creature? And the log that was giving LP all these directions begins to squirm and bounce away and grow into the shape of a humanoid, revealing bushroot. A nice fresh bushroot. DW's confused. Bushroot helped us? And then he says, hey, I might be a mutant plant duck, but I'm an Earth people plant duck. The cow calls them champions of Earth and says that they're counting on them to contain the enemy until they arrive with reinforcements before zipping away in a green flash. Darkwing is confused, and Gosselin says, get with it, you know, it's space-age technology, just a hologram. And Darkwing smacks himself and says, I thought it was confusing when I didn't know what was going on. Next we have Honk's mom corralling the cabbages into a big red bus, saying that we mustn't be late, and some of them have hats on. LP says, oh no, they're already shipping the harvest, and Gosselin asks how they're going to stall them. Darkwing recommends that he send them back to where they came from. They barge into Trudy's diner with a sort of fan or chopper-like thing. They proceed to throw what look like store-bought cabbages into the blades, shredding them. Note that these cabbages are distinctly different than the ones we've been seeing this entire episode. They're paler and much smaller. Anyway, Darkwing uses this as an intimidation tactic, scaring the crap out of everyone in the diner. Next thing we see is Honker's clone parents talking about how St. Canard will be the produce center of this galaxy. Then
I'm skipping to the end. We get it. They're just going over the fucking episode.
Is Trudy. She's wearing a dress that's identical to the red dress character.
Literally, it's just a red dress. They're not identical, and it's supposed to be a character from Twin Peaks. Lograd says, my favorite problem with the psychic space cow is that their glass globe helmet doesn't cover their mouth. How do they even breathe in space? It also had holes for the horns. Gnome Pickle says, speaking of Peterson.
Building captured. Incoming transmission.
Concrete report moving out. Ready, com.
Up yours, woke moralists.
We'll see
We'll
who
see who cancels who.
I'm so glad I was so right about him.
In the postcards, and she has the one-eye symbolism. This episode is from 1991, so we're clearly not the first to notice a connection between cabbages and clones. It is wild to me that we managed to put this together before seeing things like Patchtown and this episode of Darkwing Duck. Solely based on the old postcards, the connections became clear.
You didn't put anything together. All you have done is come up with an idea, the idea that you think babies were grown from cabbages, or that that is a metaphor for some sort of secret baby trade, and then said, look at all these things that we can vaguely say look like this. That doesn't prove what you're saying is right. You're just doing confirmation bias. And quite egregiously, even by conspiracy standards at that. MH Darkbeast says, did you see Lost Media I posted on the sleep paralysis demons from 90s public access show? No.
I gotta tell you something.
I've seen this before.
What?
I feel just right on top of it. Right on.
I don't remember the specifics, but I've seen it.
Whatever sweetie wants, sweetie gets.
What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Let's look at the bingo card. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like the stream. Let's see. What did we get from that, if anything? Predictive programming, for sure. Do we have literally anything else? That might be it. I don't think we had anything. Oh, clones. Of course we had clones. Good call on that one. Is that it? Vibes based? I don't know if it was vibes based. We definitely had aliens, though. Like, they had reasons. The reasons were just stupid. Correlation isn't causation. We can go with that one. Sure. Just gotta find the number. Where's the correlation causation space? Correlation isn't causation. I don't know where the space is. Femi with $5 Canadian on YouTube says somebody should show the cabbage conspiracy theorists and Geddes photo. I don't get it. 50. There we go. Let me look this up so I get it. Oh. This is the person that does the photos of, like, the babies and, like, flowers and stuff. I hate that shit. No offense to her. Like, there's nothing wrong with what she's doing. I just find... I don't know why. I find that kind of photography incredibly, like, twee and obnoxious. But hey, I'm happy for her.
Is time travel possible? Well, according to physicists, yes. Time travel to the future is not only possible, it's been scientifically proven. But what about traveling...
We're time traveling into the future right now.
...to the past? Well, that's a little trickier. But there does seem to be some evidence that travelers from the future have visited us in the past.
Believe me, folks, I'm the biggest fan of time travel media possible. If it existed, I'd let you know. It doesn't.
And maybe among us right now. Let's find out why.
The laws of physics seem to
Oh god, Michio, no!
be compatible with time
Fucking Michio, you fuck.
machines. This is very unsettling.
Welcome to the Y-Files, where cool nerds laugh and learn. The human race has been fascinated with traveling through time ever since the human race understood what time was.
Not true. Not true. I've said this before. Time travel, having a machine or device or vehicle that takes you into the past or the future, is a relatively new literary device. People waking up in the future or waking up in the past, that's a thing. But time travel is like a thing you do and isn't something that just happens to you because you're Rip Van Winkle and you fell asleep, or because you're, you know, a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court. The concept of time travel as we know it really originated with H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. Finekagami says, apologies for all the tangents today. It's fine. It's fine. I was just... no, never mind. I just felt bad. There was someone on YouTube who was like, I can't deal with listening to you read through all these chats. I'll come back and watch the VOD, and it made me feel bad. I'm sorry, everyone. I want to please everyone and read your chats and not upset people who don't care, but this is my job, and I'm trying to have fun. Please don't be mean to me. I'm doing my best. Cashel Gladio says, I feel like it must have been the Christian zeitgeist in the 80s that pushed for so much kids' media where the moral of the episode was just believing in magic and stuff. That's an old lesson. We've only relatively recently eschewed supernatural things.
But has time travel been achieved by future humans? And if so, did they leave us clues that they were here? Well, we've scoured the internet for the best time travel stories we can find. You may know some of them, some may be new to you, some are hoaxes, a few have been debunked, but there are a couple of stories that defy explanation. Let's get into it. In 1950, a New York City police officer working missing persons cases examined the body of a 30-year-old man who was brought to the morgue. The man had appeared in the middle of Times Square at 11:15 p.m. that evening. A witness described him as gawking and looking around at the cars and at the signs like he'd never seen them before. He then tried to cross the street against the traffic lights, was hit by a speeding taxi, and died. Pockets of his clothing had coins and currency that had not been in circulation for decades, yet many of them were in mint condition.
Okay, so he's a money collector, or was using money, old money, and taking it somewhere?
Also had items from businesses that no longer existed in New York City, like a bill from a livery stable.
It sounds like he was on his way to go to an antique store or something and sell this stuff.
A brass slug from a saloon.
And then he died.
And a letter postmarked 1876. He also had identification bearing the name Rudolph Fence with an address on Fifth Avenue. Now, the name Rudolph Fence didn't appear in the New York City phone book, and the Fifth Avenue address listed on the dead
What year was this? Did everyone have a phone? It's a bit loud. I'll turn it down.
man's card had been a business for many years, not a residence, and no one there had ever heard of Rudolph Fence. The deceased fingerprints matched nothing on file, and no current police reports fit the man's description. Also, his clothes appeared to be about 75 years out of date. Tags on his clothing had the name and address of a tailor that no one had ever heard of, and his hat, which looked new, came from a shop that had been closed for over 50 years.
Wow, a 50-year-old hat? No one owns a 50-year-old hat. Stakem, thanks for gifting us up.
The investigating officer finally turned up a listing in an old phone book for a Rudolph Fence Jr., a man in his 60s who had passed away 5 years earlier.
Wow, can you imagine people having the same name in New York? No one has the same name as other people in New York City. It's such a small community, and everyone knows each other.
Now, his widow was still living and said her husband's father, Rudolph Fence Sr., had disappeared sometime in the 1870s. He had gone out for a walk.
No one's parent abandoned them in the 1870s, by the way. If anyone disappeared in the 1870s, it was because of a time travel incident.
One night, about 10 p.m., and was never seen again.
This is crazy!
I know.
He's talking about a character from a fictional story. Is he? Let's see. Rudolph Fence. Let's look this up. Rudolph Fence. TZ. Rudolph Fence is the focal character of I'm Scared, a 1951 science fiction short story by Jack Finney, which was later reported as an urban legend as if the offense had truly happened. The story tells of... Lazy, even by conspiracy video standards. How fucking lazy. He's content farming, you fuck. He doesn't even care. He doesn't even care that this one's obviously fake even by conspiracy standards. He's gotta churn out content. Nasty.
So a search of an old missing persons report turned up a Rudolph Fence, dated 1876, and the man's clothing and address matched those of the man killed in Times Square in 1950. So, that missing persons case was finally closed after 75 years, but a different case remains open. What really happened to Rudolph Fence?
He was a fictional character, apparently, so good job. You're nailing it.
Depending on a trajectory you take around a black hole, you can come out and end up in the past of when you started.
You can tell time travelers, they're looking for whales. Just point them to the nuclear vessels and let them be on their way. They mean you no harm. But watch out for Romulans. Where was that? Too many tabs. Every day, too many tabs. We're done with cabbage. This is about the guy that...
Okay.
Did what? Rock a fire explosion. I don't even know what that is.
Ensemble are there to add comedic sides. He's practicing. Employee and musician at CEI. Aaron Fector had wanted to give him a larger role as almost thanks for his work behind the scenes, so he gave Jeff his own character to voice. Clunk was even designed as an exaggerated take on Jeff's appearance. Unfortunately, Clunk was met with...
It's like someone... What did he do? I don't even know what this is about. Kagami says, my dad went out for milk and ended up in the past. Then he stopped Hitler like Captain America. Captain America did not stop Hitler. Quite famously, he did not do that. He punched him. He did not finish the job.
In 2003, the FBI arrested 44-year-old Andrew Carlson for suspicion of insider trading. In just 2 weeks, Carlson had made 126 consecutive high-risk profitable trades, turning his $800 of seed capital into a portfolio worth $350 million. Naturally, the SEC wanted this looked into.
Naturally. People with money don't want anyone else making money.
I can't deny that. Now, normally when someone is arrested for insider trading...
Or maybe it's incredibly suspicious, and it's the job of the federal agencies in charge of regulations to check and make sure people aren't committing financial crimes. CGI fish that the person who makes this channel put words in the mouth of because you didn't want to say it yourself. God damn.
They deny it. But during a 4-hour interrogation, investigators got an explanation they didn't expect. Carlson stated he traveled back in time from 250 years in the future, bringing knowledge of high-risk, high-profit stock trades. In his videotaped confession, Carlson said it was just too tempting to resist.
This is 100% another prank thing. Is he literally just filling this entire video with stuff that everyone knows is fake, but he doesn't care because his audience, he just considers fucking pay pigs? And he's like, eat my slop, pay pigs. Like, he does not give a shit about the garbage he's shoveling. Disgusting. How terrible. Andrew Carlson. Control. Oh, wait, this is him. Let's see. The story was initially reported only in WWN and UD, which don't fill a reasonable editor with confidence, blah, blah, blah. So it was only reported from one outlet, it looks like. Weekly. Oh, it's from Weekly World News! For those who don't remember Weekly World News, it's the one that did this stuff. It's the newspaper that did the Bat Boy stuff. Newspaper, air quotes. Like it's the Garden of Eden found. If anyone has seen Men in Black, the joke where, if you're younger, you might not get this. In the first Men in Black movie, when Jay and Kay are going and they meet Frank the Pug for the first time, he's like, we gotta check the hot sheets. The hot sheets are the Weekly World News or something parodying it. Like, this is a real thing. In every supermarket in the country, this absolute nonsense joke newspaper was in every fucking supermarket. And every time you'd be like, oh, what's going on with Bat Boy? What's going on with Bat Boy? I know more about Bat Boy than anyone should know about any bat person. So anyway, he is citing literal fake news, like Onion type shit. Like, he is citing, once again, just fake bullshit.
He'd planned to make it look natural by losing a little here and there, but got caught up in the moment. So the SEC said he was either a lunatic or a pathological liar, because the only way he could pull this off was with illegal information. And they said he's going to sit in jail until he agrees to give up his sources. But Carlson did not give up his sources. He stuck to his story.
Even in the future, snitches get stitches.
Yup. So knowing he was going to prison, Carlson said in exchange for a lighter sentence, he'd be willing to reveal the cure for AIDS and the location of Osama bin Laden.
Two things you just keep in your head when you're from the future. When you're from the future in your head, you're like, ah, I know both the cure for AIDS and where Osama bin Laden is today. Those are your bargaining chips. Oh boy. Which one did you start with? Did you start with Obama or Osama or AIDS? Did you start with like, psst, I'll give you the cure for AIDS, and then sweeten the pot with Osama, or vice versa? Because I'm so curious what was the lead and follow-up. Which order do you offer those in? Also, if you know the cure for AIDS and you're not gonna say it anyway, you're an asshole. Like, you're a dick.
He also said he didn't care about the money, he'd give it back. He just wanted to return to his time craft and go back to his own time. But he refused to reveal the location of the craft for fear that it would fall into the wrong hands. So, bail was set at $1 million and he was put into holding to await trial. And you would think that's the end of the story. Carlson had no family, no friends, and no longer had any money. But after a few weeks in custody, a mysterious, unidentified man posted Carlson's bail of $1 million.
What? Who was the mystery man?
Well,
you know that you can get bail bonds, right? Like, you can get a loan for bail. Like, they don't keep that money unless you run away.
Don't know. The mystery man and Carlson were never seen or heard from again. And even stranger, there's no record.
Guess they didn't get the bail back.
Of anyone named Andrew Carlson before the day he was arrested.
Hey, question for you.
Yeah?
Did he mention anything about GameStop?
Time travel.
I need to pee. My body. I can't. Nope. Gotta pee. God damn it. Can't stop, won't stop. GameStop. Oh, their earnings are coming out tomorrow. That'll be fun. Wonder if that's what we'll talk about. Was this story before or after Time Cop? Depends upon your point of view. Time travel joke. Time travel joke. Which story? Which story before or after Time Cop?
Travel is possible if you're focusing upon
Oh, the bathroom's right there. I'm a very quick peer.
travel to the future.
Also, I mostly just wanted to step out for a second for comedic effect.
Okay, this one gives me chills.
This one gives me chills.
Tyson's boxing match with Peter McNeely in 1993.
Oh, this one. This one. You ever just spend time on Snopes looking at things so when they come up on your show about conspiracy theories, you'll hope that one day it'll pop up and you can go, I know the answer to that because I read it. It finally happened. Okay, so the footage that he's about to show is from a Mike Tyson fight. and there's a blurry image of what appears to be someone holding a camera phone. They are not holding a camera phone. They are holding a camera. Believe it or not, we had cameras before we had camera phones. It was a camera that looked like this way. I think maybe younger people think all cameras looked like this, because that's what you see in movies and stuff. There were absolutely cameras that you held like this. They were usually lower grade consumer cameras. I can pull up the Snopes page and get pictures of it for you. But, like, it's literally a camera that's the shape of what we would consider a phone, sort of, but it's not. It's not. It's just, you know, it's in portrait instead of landscape.
3 was notable for being Iron Mike's first since his release from prison. It lasted only 89 seconds and was stopped after McNeely was knocked down twice. But...
Also, why would you film something if you're a time travel with a camera phone? You could bring a camcorder. Like, why would you intentionally use something that looks like amazing technology no one has?
The most remarkable moment occurred outside of the ring, where footage shows a spectator holding up a smartphone years before they were invented.
It's not a smartphone. I like pie. Decades. Also, years before they were invented, decades before they were invented. I like pie. Thanks for 12 months says, a year. Time flies when you're screaming into the void from the stupidity of the people you cover. Does. Happy 1-year anniversary.
The white-colored camera has the distinctive slim-line design of a smartphone with the lens in the top left corner. Another innovation associated
doesn't understand how cameras work on the bingo card.
With modern-day recording equipment. All right, enough talk. You got to take a look at this.
What is that?
That's a camera. Snopes. Mike Tyson fight. Time travel. So this is a zoomed in picture of a still frame for the video that we just watched. If it's fuzzy, and we live in the 21st century, the early 21st century, early mid, whatever the fuck, it's the 20s. So to us, our brain is going to fill in the gaps with what is familiar to us. So if we see someone holding something in their hand in front of their face with a little black spot on it, our brain's going to fill in, oh, that's a camera phone, because we see that all the time. It's something we see on the day-to-day basis. But you don't have enough details here to actually say it's a camera phone. It's not a camera phone. Let's use some deductive reasoning. Camera phones didn't exist. Time travel to the past doesn't exist as far as we know. Makes more sense that you're probably seeing this. A camera like these. And it's blurry, so your brain is filling in details that don't exist.
I honestly don't know.
Like, it doesn't even make sense. Like, it's already being shot in quite high definition. The Tyson fight, like, it's up close. There's a camera in the ring. Why would you, even if you had a 4K camera phone, do this? It would look worse than the footage that's already, like, archived.
Camcorders were everywhere in the 90s, but they were bigger than this. And this guy obviously is holding it with one hand. A lot of people think it looks...
He's taking a photograph. Do you think, like, did you see how the light went on and off? That's a flash. It was a photograph.
It's like an iPhone or a Samsung Galaxy, but those wouldn't be invented for years.
Yeah,
so...
it's a camera, like a still image camera, not a camcorder.
Oh.
Oh my god.
Time travel.
This is a famous photo known as the time-traveling hipster. The image comes
this one's funny.
From the Broadlawn Pioneer Museum in British Columbia, and the photograph was taken in 1940 at the reopening of the South Fork Bridge in Canada. When the museum digitized the photo and put it online in 2010, people noticed something strange. At first glance, everything looks right. The men are in jackets, ties, and hats, the women in bonnets and overcoats. But look at this.
Whoa!
This guy appears to have a modern haircut, sunglasses, and he's wearing a graphic.
I hate to break it to anyone who thinks that there's such a thing as a modern haircut. Humans have been around for a while. Every single thing humans can possibly do with their hair has already been a thing for thousands of years, and we just kind of go in cycles of what's in style. There's no such thing as a new hairdo. There's no such thing as, like, a new hairdo. Like, I mean, if it's stupid enough, maybe no one's done it. But just like statistically, if you look at someone's hairdo, someone in the past probably also had that hairdo. Just statistically, there've been so many people on the earth, and so many different things to do with your goddamn hair. Anyway, t-shirts already existed at this point. Those goggles already, like, they're glasses. They're like glasses or potentially welding glasses, because they have like the form-fitting thing. So I don't know if that's something that he used for his job, but especially if he is a welder and he's working, he probably wouldn't be wearing a suit. Even a welder in the 50s or the 40s isn't going to be wearing a suit while welding, because that is a fire hazard. Also not good for your skin, probably, if you accidentally light yourself on fire. Amber Pretzels, thanks for 21 months, says, I am free. I offer pot roast. Oh, thank you for this imaginary pot roast. I appreciate it. Anyway, it's just very funny. He's a rower. Those glasses were for diminishing glare. Thank you! Is the shirt that he's wearing also like a college shirt? If he's on a rowing team, that would make sense. That's a college student wearing his university letter shirt. Oh, that makes fucking sense. We did it, chat. We did it.
T-shirt under his cardigan. And what's that he's holding?
It's a Montreal Canadian jersey. Sweet. See, this is why I love this community. I can come up with, like, hypotheses and things for things, but then someone in chats will be like, no, this is the specific thing that is. Because there's enough of us here that we kind of have that wisdom of the crowd thing going on. No, that's a different thing. Wisdom of the crowd is averages coming out to accuracy. This is more just, we have a big enough audience that people know things, and it's cool when you guys get to explain something to me.
Doesn't that seem too small to be a camera in 1940?
No? Wait, what? Cameras of the... What? Hold on. This is what cameras in the 40s looked like. How big does he think cameras were in the 40s? Like, is he imagining a giant daguerreotype, like, from the 1870s? Because, like, by the 40s, cameras were more or less in the form factor that we know them, or knew them before they were mostly replaced by camera phones and digital photography. Like, cameras were not giant monstrosities or monstrositas. There's a word I'm thinking of. They weren't giant, cumbersome things. Clearcat says, haircuts are dumb. When are powdered wigs gonna make the comeback? Probably around the same time as the lice. Dillis Filler, thanks for 7 months, says, oh hi. Oh hi, Dillis Filler. I did not hit her. It is bullshit. I did not. Oh hi, Mark. Benikagami says, bonus points because when we help each other with our knowledge, we don't bullshit each other. Agreed.
Photoshop?
Nope. The museum has confirmed that the photo is authentic and unaltered.
Yes, there's nothing about this is out of place. The fact that you mostly saw professional adults wearing suits and stuff in things from the 40s does not mean no one wore anything else.
So, who is he? Where is he from?
Don't you mean, when is he from?
I hate this fish. It feels like there are some lines that even the creator is too embarrassed to just say, so that's what the fish is for. The fish is there so he can have things in the script that he knows are super embarrassing, but he'll just have the fish say it, and then it's a character. It's not him. Mr. Whisker says, if it doesn't require you to hide under a sheet the cameras from the future, this applies to today as well. And Freyline says, I think people mistake professional cameras they see news people use in old movies as to what everyone uses. I guess that would be... I understand why people would have that misgiving. That makes sense.
Paths through space-time that seem to be permitted by the laws of physics, although it would require a very high advanced technology, much more advanced than us, to do it.
Out-of-place technology seems to pop up all over the place if you look for it.
Oh no. Is this going to be about the gear thing that they found in that ship? About the Roman steam engine toy? The fucking Baghdad batteries that were not batteries?
In 2010, a video called Chaplin's Time Traveler appeared on YouTube, and the clip analyzes bonus material from a DVD of Charlie Chaplin's 1928 film, The Circus. Now, the footage is from the film's Los Angeles premiere at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and at one point...
It's a hearing aid. It's a hearing aid. In the past, if you had issues hearing, you had to hold a thing up to your ear, like an ear horn or something similar. Could also be a radio.
A woman is seen walking by, holding up an object...
Portable radio? No, transistor radios didn't exist yet at this point, did they? Probably not. Probably a hearing aid. Beat Poet DJ, thanks for 13 months.
...to her ear, and a closer examination, she seems to be talking into a thin, black device. What is this?
Monstrosity, that's what I was trying to say. Why was my mouth not working?
Towers or satellites yet, so it's not a modern cell phone. Then what is it? She's definitely talking, but there's nobody else near her. Who is she talking to?
She's talking to other time agents. She's saying...
Let's think about this for a second. If, in the future, human beings invent time travel that allows you to go into the past, doesn't matter what kind of time travel it is, presumably, you're going to want your agents to be secretive, to blend in. You're going to give them clothes that match the time period, maybe a briefing, or agents that are specific to specific time periods, like, you're an expert on 1920s America, we have a case for you in 1920s Chicago. And then you go and you know all the things to do and not do. Why in the world would you have an agent that had a communication device in the shape of a technology that only exists for a very brief period of time? The smartphone was basically popularized by the iPhone in 2007, 2008, whichever. And I'm guessing in like 50 more years we won't have cell phones. I don't know what we'll have. I don't know if it'll be a wearable or like a contact or a brain thing. I don't think the form factor will exactly be this. And maybe I'm wrong, but it just feels weird that in the future they'd be like, oh yeah, we're a super awesome future time travel group, and all we can do is phones. Obvious what I'm doing. Doesn't make sense in 99% of context in history doing this. But it makes sense between 2007 and, you know, 2057 or something. Like, so why would you do that? That doesn't make sense. El Minato says, I mean, the Time Squad got away with sending a robot to the past consistently, and that's why that show got canceled.
This movie sucks.
I loved that show as a kid.
Let's get an In-N-Out burger instead.
Maybe. And a few years later, this happened again. This is footage from 1938 of people coming out of a DuPont.
We all know that time travelers don't use cell phones. They use a friend from the future using, what did they call it? Neural entanglement in order to be there for their friend in the past as a hologram that only they can see and hear.
Factory. And the woman in the center seems to be talking on a cell phone or some communication device. And
oh my god, what the fuck? She's literally doing this! Oh, what in the world?
It away.
They got away. Oh, I read that.
Now, this video was so convincing that it's been covered by the Huffington Post.
Literally, it just looks like she's doing this, and then puts her hand down. She's scratching her face.
Post, Daily Mail, and Yahoo News.
Oh, please.
What?
Yahoo News should change its name to Yahoo Random Words That Should Never Be Believed.
So you don't trust the media?
I'm a fish.
I don't trust you and the weird fish character you chose to say things you're too embarrassed to say.
Fish, not a sheep.
Fine, I got it. Don't trust the media.
Yeah, boy.
Anyway,
his embarrassing
Hagley's
thoughts are shunted to the fish.
Archive has full scans of every issue of DuPont magazine from 1913 to 1993, and there's no mention of a wireless communication device around.
See what they do? See the tricky bullshit that people will say as if that's an argument. It's in the form of an argument, so someone who's not thinking might not realize what the problem is here. There's no mention of a wireless communication device. You've already assumed too much. You have already assumed that what you're looking at is someone with a communication device. It is not. It is a woman doing this. And then putting her arm down. You're already at the point where you believe something that's unfounded. You've jumped over that one and assumed it. And now you're trying to falsify the thing that was never proven or not even tried to falsify. Like you're saying, well, There was no mention of that radio, so they must be a time traveler, because to them, they already assume this is some sort of communication device. If your initial premises are fucked and wrong, everything that follows will be nonsense.
The time of the film. So you tell me, who's she talking to?
Mission control on the mothership.
Time travel.
What? Out-of-place technology can be found not just in film or old photographs, but in art created hundreds or thousands of years ago.
Oh my god.
Here are a few famous
Sorry, I know what he's gonna do here.
ones. In 2008, a team of archaeologists had made a puzzling discovery. The team included some journalists. They were filming a documentary at a dig site at a sealed tomb dating to the Ming Dynasty at Shaanxi, northern China. As one of the coffins were being cleared of soil before being opened, a strange metallic object was found. It was a small golden ring with a watch face on its front, approximately 2 millimeters.
That's not a watch face. That's just some sort of symbol. This is the problem. This is such a problem. And I feel so bad for, like, anthropologists who have to deal with this shit. Fundamentally, you need to understand something. Symbols do not have inherent meaning. Nothing symbolic has literal objective meaning. That's what makes them symbols. So you look at this ring and you go, that kind of looks like a watch face. That must be a watch. No, you're engaging in pareidolia. Except instead of seeing human faces, you're seeing a watch face. You are seeing things because your context, your culture, your upbringing, this would mean a clock face, because we all have seen clocks. Clocks are around us all the time. They're used symbolically in our society to represent time, right? This ring is before clocks existed. Sundials were a thing, but they didn't look like this. So whatever this thing is a symbol of, maybe a royal or family crest kind of thing, or a symbol that means something to them, that is inscrutable to you or I without more information. You would need to understand, where is this? What was the society they lived in? Is this similar to anything that they thought about symbolically or mythologically? Just because you see something and it seems obvious to you that that looks like a watch face, doesn't mean that's what it is. Because it's not. You're interpreting this through the lens of a language they weren't speaking. You know what I mean? Your worldview, your basic fundamental understanding of the world, what symbols mean, a lot of this is culturally contextual. So if you are trying to understand someone else's culture, someone else's time period, their symbols, objects, and ideas, you have to take that into account. Otherwise, you're going to translate incorrectly. Because you'll get something from them and you'll be like, what does this mean? If you're only looking at your perspective, you're going to get wrong messages. Because they didn't grow up with the same worldview you did. They didn't grow up in the same world you did. Their symbols mean different things.
Meters thick. Tiny hands on the watch show the time had frozen at 10:06. And most astonishing of all, the back of the watch had the word Swiss engraved in English.
Now I gotta look this stupid bullshit up. Ancient clock ring. Google must think I'm a nut. Does pareidolia mean when there is a dussy? Yes. 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 Hold on. Ancient ring, clock face, Snopes. Let's see. Swiss ring, watch, ruins, Snopes, maybe? You looked up with the word debunked and only found woo-woo sites? Yeah, I'm looking. So the claim is that the tomb was sealed for 400 years, but apparently the ring is actually from 100 years ago. So it just seems like they were wrong about the tomb not ever being opened for 400 years. It's more likely that the tomb had just been entered by someone 100 years ago and they lost a ring, rather than the thing you just said. It's not time travel. Gnome Pickle says there's a great book about a future archaeological dig of a motel, and yeah, I have that. It's over here. Someone sent it to me. I haven't actually read it yet, but someone sent that to me. Gnome Pickle says, sorry, message got cut off by cat, but the dig of the hotel got described as an ancient tomb. Yes. There's a joke. I don't remember if it's there's like a joke that goes something along the old lines of basically anthropologists looking for human things. If they can't figure out what it is, it's a religious object. What is this? Religious or ceremonial purposes?
The tomb had been sealed for 400 years, and the watch itself was already 100 years old when it was placed inside. That dates to the...
Oh, so we already said it. So the tomb just wasn't closed that whole time, and they were wrong. Great.
15th or 16th century. Switzerland wasn't even known by that name in English until 1848.
This is like a time traveler lost and found.
It kinda is. The Spanish city of Salamanca features a cathedral built in 1102. The carvings are pretty...
Ceremonial doesn't mean religious. That's why I said ceremonial and religious. Or. I guess I should have said and or. You're right. I misspoke.
Typical for the 12th century. Winding vines and leaves, gargoyles, demons. No big whoop. But what the heck is this?
Oh my god. Tea Time says from ancientordinance.net, it has never been revealed which tomb in particular was being excavated by whom, nor any additional information on the coffin itself. Oh, so a straight up fraud. So straight up someone was just like, I found this in this tomb! Do you have any evidence that it was in that tomb, or where you found it? No! Oh, great. Okay. It's just a lie.
That appears to be a modern astronaut wearing a spacesuit, and not just a random spacesuit. This particular suit has features specific to the Apollo 11 EMU worn by Buzz Aldrin. You can see the helmet, the backpack, which held the primary life support system, and oxygen umbilical cords.
Gills are so underrated.
They are. But what really got me were the boots. They feature deep treads that would be used to explore dusty extraterrestrial surfaces.
This feels like an art piece someone put in over an existing thing and made it match up to make some sort of statement. Or at least to make an interesting art piece.
Like the moon and Mars. And he appears to be
I'll look at it.
Floating like he's on a spacewalk. So how could the artists have predicted all these details almost 900 years before they were invented?
Sorry, I'm looking this up. Here's a fact check about it. Let's see. Let's see. No. The website for the new cathedral, this is like the same cathedral that the old one has the things on. They explain in Spanish that the astronaut was incorporated into the Puerta de Ramos Gate, during restoration works on the cathedral in 1992, ahead of an exhibition for the religious foundation Edades de Hombre in 1993. The astronaut was added by stonemason Miguel Romero to continue the tradition of incorporating a contemporary element with every restoration. So apparently, every time this cathedral gets restored, they add something to it that's contemporary. That's pretty neat. That's a neat thing you can learn that's true and not a conspiracy theory. Ugh. Captain Squid says if you want to see some more. Oh, that one's pretty cool. The alien one. Someone also mentioned the xenomorph. Yeah, in the chat. God, look at that. That's fun. I like that. Oh, that one's got a Darth Vader! Did someone go back in time and show people in the Middle Ages Star Wars? No. No, they didn't. They did not. It's cool, though. Very cool. 1.21 gigawatts? It's gigawatts. It's always been gigawatts, Doc. What are you doing?
Okay, these stories are certainly fun, but are they real? Can they be explained? Maybe. You be the judge. Let's go through them. The case of Rudolph Fence.
Oh, thank fuck. Oh my god, is he actually gonna go through these at the end? Yes. Yes.
An urban legend that's been around since the 1970s, maybe even earlier. I first heard it from my dad when I was a kid.
Thank fuck. Oh my god. I thought he was just gonna leave it there. Oh my god. Do I actually like him? Is he gonna debunk all these and be like, see, if you fell for these, think twice? If so, I love him.
But it's not true. It's actually an excerpt from a short story called I'm Scared, which was written by Jack Finney, who you might know as the author of The Body Snatchers.
I'm a lot happier now knowing that he's actually trying to teach people better. That's good. That's good. Good for him.
The story was published in Collier's magazine in
He did do the frakes. We made it up.
1951, about the time when Rudolph Fence supposedly appeared.
Nice to believe it.
I know you do. The Andrew Carlson story is one of my favorites. I love this one. It has all the makings of a great conspiracy. Millions of dollars, a mysterious benefactor, a missing person, but this one originated as a fictional piece in Weekly World News, a satirical newspaper. Later, the story was picked up by Yahoo News, so naturally people believed the story. It was then reported by other newspapers and magazines as fact, and this drove word of mouth, creating one of the great modern urban legends.
Fuck yes. Okay, I don't have to hate this man now. This is good. This is good. This is relief. This is weird relief.
The lesson here is...
Amber Pretzel says, and here I was about to ask if anyone else was losing brain cells one by one. The fish still isn't a choice I would make, but at least there's a reason. It's more so seems like now that I understand he doesn't believe all this bullshit, I think he's using the fish as a devil's advocate character. It's a fictional character he's using to raise hypothetical points that believers might, so that he might respond. It's a guess, though. That makes way more sense, and isn't a bad thing inherently. It's just a tool.
Believe anything the media says?
You're learning.
Although it looks creepy, for sure.
Okay, so the Mike Tyson fight. Although the device in the video does resemble a type of camera phone not sold until years later, it also could be one of a number of handheld cameras that were in fact widely available. The resolution and size of the original video make it difficult to determine the specific features of the device, but some believe it's similar to either the Casio QV10A, the Casio QV100, or the Logitech Photoman. So, debunked? Probably. Maybe. I'm not sure. If you think you know...
Alright, there goes some of the respect I had gained. Come on, just say it. Just say that's what it most like. That's what it is. It's what it is. We can safely debunk this. You don't have to leave that little window open.
What kind of camera that is? Please let us know in the comments. The idea that the hipster of the photo...
Please let us know in the comments if you know what this thing is. AKA, please comment any vacuous thing so the algorithm will pick up this video and do something with it.
Photograph as a time traveler hinges on 3 items that appeared to be too modern for 1940. A logo t-shirt, a small portable camera, and the wraparound sunglasses. But all of those items were readily available in the 1940s. The internet says he's wearing a Montreal Maroons embroidered jersey, and the Maroons were a hockey team that played in the NHL from 1924 to 1938. Okay. While glasses with protective side shields were not widespread, you could get them in 1940, and the camera in his hand, there definitely were cameras that small back then. They were unusual and they were pretty expensive, but they did exist. So, debunked?
Nope.
The woman on the cell phone, quote unquote, in the Charlie Chaplin clip, is thought to be using an early hearing aid. Though I'm not sure why she's talking to herself and looking around like people do when they're on the phone, but she could be talking to herself. I mean, I do that when I'm alone.
He's not saying yay or nay until he has more definite information, which is science. The problem is he's not doing science. He's making a YouTube video, and on YouTube you're doing this for primarily entertainment purposes. And most people are not scientists, nor do they think like scientists, so they're not going to take that bit as he's just being fair to the fact that you never know and you want to remain open to every possibility until you specifically falsify a possibility, which is true in science. But that's not how people operate. In the real world, people go, oh, that might be true? Okay, I'm gonna assume it's true then. Like, even if there's 0.0001% of like, you never know, they will take that and just say they believe it, even though it's very unlikely. People are not very good at understanding things statistically. They don't understand something is 99.99999% probably true, and there's always a little bit of there for, like, unknowns. They go, either this is potentially true or it's not. And if there's any potentiality of truth given, they will just take a mile. It's frustrating.
Do we really want to discuss what you do when you're alone?
No, I don't. But the DuPont video from 1938 is a little trickier. After the
It isn't. She's doing this. That's the easiest one.
story went viral, the woman's family claimed that her name was Gertrude Jones, and she was working for DuPont and using an experimental
So you mean the dog can't play basketball? See, we wrapped it up! Jacques Lacan. Jacques Lacan? Jacques Lacan? Jacques Lacan?
wireless
Has anyone made that joke before? Probably. Statistically. His name sounds like Shaka Khan. No one's made a Jacques Lacan joke? No, that's gotta be a thing. That's gotta be a thing.
telephone developed by the company. Okay, that's fine, but look at the size of it. The earliest cell phones were huge, and this is before World
It wasn't a phone! There was nothing in her hand!
War II. So you're telling me we had the technology to make batteries that small? Okay, fine. Let's say the battery technology
You are so far ahead of yourself.
did it in 19... It wouldn't be big enough to power...
It's not... There's nothing in her hand! How do you not see this? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Or a wireless radio. The walkie-talkie was only patented in 1936, and in the war, radio operators were followed around by another guy with a backpack that carried the transceiver and battery, which weighed over 30 pounds, or 18 kilograms. Still heavy. So I don't know if this one is debunked.
It is. It absolutely is.
The ancient watch found in the Chinese tomb, that's a straight-up hoax. Photoshopped, debunked. The astronaut on the Cathedral of Salamanca, well, the sculpture is definitely real, but when the cathedral was renovated and restored in 1992, the artist added their own modern touches, including the astronaut. Debunked.
Crap, those were good ones.
I know, they were. But 300 or 400 years from now, when someone looks at that church, they are gonna be confused.
No, they won't. They will not, because they will understand the context of it and go, oh, there's stuff from all sorts of different periods in this. Because people who actually do that kind of thing for a living think about it. Jesus.
They say.
What a very strange tone. Like, it's like he's trying to play both sides of it. It's like he's like, no, I'll be skeptical at the end, but like, I'll feed you a bunch of bullshit if you want, and I won't be too hard on you if you want to believe it, but I'll tell you it's not true. But you can believe it if you want. See, my fish friend will still like you. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of that.
Want so badly for these stories to be true? Why are we so obsessed with time travel? Well, probably because we're obsessed with time. Time rules our lives. Time creates possibilities, but time also ends possibilities. It's finite. The expression time is money isn't exactly true. Time is much more valuable than money. Wealth can be made and lost and made again.
Silver Shadow, how's it
But
going?
time, once we lose it, we can never get it back. Time is the most valuable thing you have. Spend it wisely. Thanks for hanging out with us today. My name is...
Frustrating.
A declassified
That's loud.
CIA document from the 1980s has been uncovered, and it reveals a mind-bending truth. The world around...
Watch some of his more popular videos. He sucks. Okay. I saved him to my list, so we'll watch more of him in the future.
Around you is an illusion created by your own mind, that there are alternate dimensions waiting for you to access them, and ultimately this information shows you are God. Sound crazy? I've devoted my life to studying consciousness and hidden information, and this is one of the most incredible declassified documents I've ever encountered. The shocking information within reveals a method for accessing other realities and a way to tap into the power of your own consciousness to transcend the limitations of time and space.
Oh, this is some woo-woo bullshit. God damn it.
This is not science fiction. This is a real document, and the secrets it holds are waiting for you to uncover. Now, before we continue, make sure you like and subscribe, because I'll be releasing even more information about this document on my channel in the near future.
It looks like the Chrome logo, but from the Mirror universe. Like evil Google Chrome. So Google Chrome.
The document begins by revealing the incredible fact that reality is actually an illusion constructed by your brain and the senses.
Yes, our understanding of the world is filtered, not even filtered, comes entirely through the filters that are our sensory organs. Our nerves, our eyes, our ears, and all the parts in them that actually sense sound waves. Like, it's not a conspiracy that your experiences are subjective and slaves to your senses. Thank you for the raid, KF Logan. Welcome, Raiders. How's it going? It was nice to be on the other day over on the charity stream. I'm Hannah. We are debunking conspiracy theories, talking about why people believe them, and the dynamics of how they work. We have a lot of fun, tell some jokes, have a good time. Go check out KF Logan 1875. Hope you had a good stream.
It explains that the brain is capable of constructing a virtual reality through the process of perception by taking raw sensory data and organizing it into a coherent picture of the world.
Right, that's not a conspiracy. You're just describing the cognitive process of, like, sensing things. Gnome Pickle says, calling it now, this was likely a document that was classified due to one or two reasons. First, it was something stupid believed by an officer or scientist who had their papers collected, or just junk info classified to make people think they uncovered something and let them get away with something worthless. I'll have to look more into it.
Think of the brain.
Once we get more details, I'll be able to Google and see if anyone has written about this.
Like a computer that processes programming code to construct a video game world. Well, the document...
That is such a bullshit way of explaining that. That's a metaphor. It's not literal. It doesn't mean that world is the Matrix or that the world is a video game. What it means is that our perceptions are subjective and are entirely under the influence of our brain's ability to interpret signals brought to them by your sensory organs. It's not a simulation, it's just how we know about the world, right? It's fine to bring up the fact that, like, technically, you don't see this cup, you see the light bouncing off this cup. But it's kind of like an oxymoron, because when we say we see something, that's literally what we mean. We're describing the specific, like, action of the light bouncing off this, it hitting our eyes, getting sent through our optic nerve to our brain to be interpreted. That's what seeing is, but we don't normally think about it like that. That doesn't mean that's not what it is, though. It's not a lie. It's just that's how we get information about the world.
Explains that the brain operates in a similar way, but that this process can be transcended or hacked, allowing you to have out-of-body experiences.
Like with drugs? You can, like, confuse your senses, and you can confuse, like, your brain into things. That doesn't make you a god. It makes your brain a piece of meat in your head, making chemical reactions to make your thoughts.
And tap into dimensions beyond space and time. I'll be revealing exactly what this document says about how this works, and by the end of this video, you'll have uncovered what's described as a powerful method for breaking out of the confines of your body and the physical world, and you'll have learned the ultimate truth about yourself and all existence. But first, you have to know something about the gateway process. Established in 1974, the Monroe Institute is a mysterious research organization that specializes in the study of altered states of consciousness.
The Monroe Institute. Discover, validate, empower. Our guided program uses sound technology to empower your journey of self-discovery. Okay, about our purpose. Our purpose, the global awakening of human consciousness. I feel like that's a bit of an ask, but alright. The Monroe Institute is the world leader in human consciousness exploration. Founded in the early 1970s as an educational and research organization by Robert A. Monroe, our experimental programs are offered on our main campus in Farber, Virginia, as well as 12 additional countries and online. Using specifically designed binaural beat... Oh no! The binaural beats! The binaural beats! If you're in my audience and you know what I'm talking about, you're either one of two things. You're either weirdly into hypnosis as a kid for some reason, into woo-woo science, or very specific fetish material. I'm one of those three. It's not the porn one. It's not the porn one. Anyway, so this is like some... Okay, alright. I don't even know how to, like... How do you cover this? Come on. I was the hypnosis one, by the way. As a kid, I was really fascinated with psychology and human psychology and hypnosis and how people work, on how people do things and choose to do things, or if they are choosing things. I've changed a lot, clearly. Robert Allen Monroe was an American radio broadcasting executive who became known for his ideas about altered states of consciousness and for founding the Monroe Institute, which continues to promote these ideas. His 1971 book, Journeys Out of the Body, is credited with popularizing the term out-of-body experience. Monroe helped HemiSync, which he claimed could facilitate enhanced brain performance. He was one of the founders of the Jefferson Cable Corporation, the first cable company to cover Central Virginia. Ooh. Oh. Let's see. According to his third book, he dropped out of Ohio State University in his sophomore year, had a facial burn. He became a hobo. Fun. Studied pre-med, engineering, and journalism. Kind of feels like he didn't know what he wanted to do there, at least between the first two. Or English and journalism track. Engineering's a different thing. Let's see, he developed ulcers in young adulthood. He was classified 4F, which is unfit for the draft, or unfit for service during World War II. In 1956, the firm created a research and development division to study the effects of various sound patterns on human consciousness, including the sleep state. Monroe was especially attracted to the concept of sleep learning, which I'm pretty sure has been debunked. This was a natural direction to take, applying this new area of audio production methods used in the firm's commercial activity. The purpose was to find more constructive uses for such knowledge than was ordinarily available, and the results of this research have been internationally known. Sleep learning, by the way, is the idea of... have you ever seen a sitcom or something in the past? This used to be a trope, but it's been debunked, so, like, it's not a trope so much anymore. But someone's like, I need to learn something! Stat! So they'll go to sleep listening to a tape, and, like, while I sleep, I'll learn! That's not a thing you can do. Like, the conscious mind is involved in learning. But it was a hypothesis that he had that turned out to not be true. First out-of-body experience. According to his own account, while experimenting with sleep learning in 1958, Monroe experienced an unusual phenomenon which he described as sensations of paralysis and vibration accompanied by a bright light that appeared to be shining on him from a shallow angle. Monroe went to say that this occurred another 9 times over the next 6 weeks, culminating in his first out-of-body experience. Monroe recorded his account in 1971 book, Journey Out of the Body, and went on to become a prominent researcher in the field of human consciousness. Monroe later authored 2 more books on his experience with OBE, out-of-body experience, Far Journeys and Ultimate Journey. Oh boy. So, he thinks that by playing certain sound frequencies, he can sync the hemispheres of your brain. Okay, all right. Interesting. The truth is, sleep is when your short-term memories get turned into long-term. Yeah, sleep is important for learning. It's just you do the sleeping after the learning, and then it, you know, your brain files it for you, more or less.
Sorry about that. I'm just...
What was that? Where were we? There it was.
And human potential by pushing the limits of the human mind. The Monroe Institute.
See a friend of the Dolphin House, man? That fucking dolphin guy. That dolphin fucking guy.
Developed a training system called the Gateway Process for altering brain frequencies to...
Science is a beautiful thing, but don't fuck a dolphin in service of science. Don't fuck dolphins.
Level that induces altered states of consciousness, allowing one to access hidden layers of reality beyond the physical world. This caught the eye of the US military for its potential applications in military and intelligence operations, and in 1978, they ventured into uncharted territories, evaluating the Gateway Process and its potential applications in the art of war. The military arranged to send its officers for training at the Monroe Institute in the art of out-of-body experiences, or OBEs. And as the years passed, the military's fascination with this only grew stronger, leading to a shadowy mission in 1983, where additional officers were sent to the Monroe Institute with the intention of unlocking the secrets of out-of-body experiences and harnessing the power for military purposes.
There's no military purpose. An out-of-body experience is a thing that is still happening in your brain. Your consciousness does not exist separately from your physical body. We do not have evidence of that.
And it was during this time...
Like, all the evidence we have points to the fact that you and your thought process, everything you consider you, is in your brain. It is your brain. It's not in it. It is it. Your brain is you. Like, your consciousness emerges from the physical processes of the brain. Like, it's a material thing.
Specifically on June 9th, 1983, the CIA produced a then classified document for the Department of Defense detailing the Gateway Process, the illusory nature of reality, other dimensions beyond space and time, and a warning of encounters with non-physical entities. Finally, this document was declassified in 2003. Now it will change the way you look at reality forever. The document...
No, it won't. I know people hallucinate and have hallucinations. Not when I said hallucinate, I guess I more meant I know people experience hallucinations on drugs. I know they experience them due to malfunctioning systems of the brain. Like, there's reasons people hallucinate and see things that aren't there. It doesn't mean those things are real. It means that there's something going on with their mind.
It begins by explaining how the mechanics of the Gateway Process, also known as the Gateway Experience, requires an understanding of biomedical models, quantum mechanics, theoretical
physics. Why do people want to be more than human? Weirdly, because that's a very human trait. Like, I don't know. People want to be more. It's not healthy. But, like, it's also probably how some people have made progress by wanting to continually do that. Building, growth, more, better. It's destructive when you function, or rather, organize your whole society around that idea of constant growth and innovation. That's not sustainable. But on an individual basis, that sort of, like, weird human tendency towards hubris, it resulted in a lot of interesting stuff, at the very least. Also a lot of fucking awful shit. But that's people in a nutshell.
Physics, hypnosis, meditation, and references its association with the occult. And we're going to dive in and explore that process right now. You need to hear this because this will change the way you see reality forever. The document explains. Fundamentally, the Gateway Experience is a training system designed to bring enhanced strength, focus, and coherence to the amplitude and frequency of brainwave output between the left and right hemispheres, so as to alter consciousness consciousness, moving it outside the physical sphere so as to ultimately escape even the restrictions of time and space.
Okay, well that's bullshit.
So what's going on here? The left and right hemispheres of the brain have very different functions. For example,
oh
when it
no,
comes
is he
to
gonna do the
speech,
thing? Is he gonna do the creativity versus analytical thing, or the actual stuff?
the left
Anonymous, thanks for gifting a sub to my rear. Oh my god! My rear end! My rear end. I just got that.
hemisphere deals with the logical structure and rules of sentences, while the right hemisphere deals with the meaning of the sentence. The two hemispheres working together, combining logical structure and meaning, is what allows us to communicate. Essentially, the gateway process uses audio signals delivered through headphones to synchronize the left and right hemispheres of the brain to alter the mind, moving your consciousness outside of physical reality. But hold on, you might be thinking, how can the brain move your consciousness outside of physical reality?
Wait, where's my button? I'm slacking in the prop department. Give me a sec.
You might be thinking, how can the brain move your consciousness outside of physical reality? Isn't
It can't! What do I win?
your brain and the mind the same thing? And if your brain is physical, how can it move consciousness outside of physical reality? That doesn't make any sense. That's because
Did I know sudden synchronized brain activity is otherwise known as a grand mal seizure?
the idea that
It's similar to when people are like, oh, we only use 10% of our brain at a time. If only humans could use 100% of their brain. You don't want your brain to be firing off synapses randomly. That's not something you want.
this is a physical reality and that the brain produces consciousness is wrong. Let me explain. The document states, solid matter in the strict construction of the term simply does not exist. The truth is that the world around you, everything you can taste, touch, hear, smell, and feel, is a kind of illusion generated by the brain. But
Okay, but like, no, yes, but no. Like, literally what you're saying, I get what you're saying. Yes, everything we, like, see and whatever, and touch and feel, it's all interpreted through our sensory organs and brain. Correct. But nothing has changed. This is what reality is. Reality is literally our reality is a real thing, and we perceive it through the intermediary of our bodies. We are a part of it. So you can have philosophical discussions about, like, I can never really feel this juggling ball, because really what's happening is there is an object, and I am holding the object, and then there are nerves in my fingertips that are sending signals down here to my central nervous system, and then it goes to my brain and tells me I'm holding this. But, like, that's what it is. That's what holding something is. That's what seeing something is. We're just understanding what we're describing better when we do this, you know? Like, I am juggling right now. I am talking. You are hearing me. You can understand the underlying mechanisms of these things without making it shit. Like, it's not a trick. You're not being tricked. This is just reality, and we see reality through these things. There's no objective, like, point of view you can get to that isn't dependent upon sensory organs, because it's kind of a prerequisite if you're conscious and know you're alive. Juggle. I will continue to do so.
what about the brain itself? The brain does not generate consciousness. You
What?
are not a brain. You are an eternal system of energy.
No. This absolutely is not a thing. Cite your goddamn statement, motherfucker. This is so bullshit. You absolutely are your brain. What are you doing?
A complex of frequency. The brain is what filters, limits, and conditions you so that you can experience the physical realm.
Then what is you? What is you? What?
Think of your brain.
You are your brain. You are your thoughts and memories and feelings. You are all of those things cumulatively.
And body not as what you are, but like a vehicle. Think that's crazy? Not according to neurosurgeon Michael Egnor and many like.
And as we all know, all neurosurgeons are geniuses at everything. Look at Ben Carson. He was awesome at everything.
Kim.
For Key, is that misunderstanding Eastern mythology? Yes. Misunderstanding or poor understanding of Eastern philosophy or religion on the bingo card.
Who, due to his work with the brain, has concluded there's no way that the brain...
Yeah, they're basically trying to reinvent the concept of souls, but making it sound scientific. It's just they're coming up with souls.
...can create consciousness, and has abandoned materialism for idealism.
It's actually kind of funny. I know I already talked about Lacan in this stream, but this actually kind of ties into something that he talked about too. And part of Lacan's, like, the foundation of his work was this idea of the consciousness as something very separate from the material. Like, no matter how much I try to communicate to all of you or any other person, you will never really know me, because the me that exists is a thought process. It's consciousness in my head. You can never hear it or understand it or feel my feelings. The best I can do is use this as an intermediary to get you to understand things, and then you will take that in and understand it, and that'll go into your little person in your head, the person you are, not the person on the outside that everyone sees, but the actual person you are on the inside that no one can see. You know what I mean? So it's kind of funny that he's talking about this, because I feel like when people talk about the concept of a soul, and the entire philosophical and theological concept of a soul is sort of humans recognizing this. It's them recognizing, like, yeah, I'm like a person and people perceive me, but the way people perceive me and this physical me is a little different than the actual me in my head, right? So on some level, I think they're thinking of that them inside their head as the soul, and then this is just your person, you know? Except they're explaining it supernaturally. This is, you know, same thing, but trying to make it sound like science, whereas Lacan was trying to describe mental processes and, like, how we exist internally versus how we represent ourselves externally, and how that conflict between the two can cause problems.
Which means he now believes that reality isn't physical, but mental, immaterial. Your brain and body are
Pratchett described it as the voice behind the eyes in The Thief of Time. Yeah.
Not what you are.
It's something people have noted, but it is interesting to think about.
It's what allows the true you to connect to physical reality. Except physical reality isn't physical either. It just seems that way when you're connected to it. Just like a dream seems to be physical and real when you're in the dream. The CIA document states, the point to be made is that the entire human being, brain, consciousness, and all...
The main trouble is stemming from the ambiguity of language. That's... I don't know if you did this on purpose, but that is a huge part of Lacan's work, is how cognitive processes are analogous to linguistics. I need to go back to college. Jesus Christ.
Is like the universe which surrounds him, nothing more or less than an extraordinarily complex system of energy fields.
No. Matter exists. Matter is a thing. We, even at this point, know what gives matter mass, because the Higgs boson got found. Woo! You can obviously talk about all of these things philosophically, but that's pretty much what you're doing at that point. Don't try and make it sound scientific if you don't have the basis for it.
So-called states of matter are...
Dr. Hannah Blastwen. I don't know. We'll see where I'm at in a decade.
actually variances in the state of energy. According to this document,
I like it's just this document. A classified CIA document from the 80s.
A declassified...
Let's see. Analysis and assessment of gateway process. What was it? Where was it? There? There. Analysis and assessment of gateway process. Analysis and assessment of gateway process. Here we go. Oh, it's actually just straight up on the CIA website. Let's take a look. We can read it ourselves. Thanks, CIA. Good luck in your next coup or whatever you guys do. Oh. This is from June 1983. From Commander of U.S. Army Operations Group, Fort Meade. You tasked me to provide an assessment of the Gateway experience in terms of its mechanics and ultimate practicality. As I set out to fulfill that tasking, As I set out to fulfill that tasking, it's a word I don't ever hear. It soon became clear that in order to assess the validity and practicality of the process, I needed to do enough supporting research and analysis to fully understand how and why the process works. Frankly, sir, that proved to be an extremely involved and difficult business. Initially, based on conversations with physicians who took the Gateway training with me, I had recourse to the biomedical models. Recourse? Yeah, that's right. I had recourse to the biomedical models developed by Itzhak Bentov to obtain information concerning the physical aspects of the process. Then I found it necessary to delve into various sources for information concerning quantum mechanics in order to be able to describe the nature and functioning of human consciousness. Oh no, he's Deepak Chopraying. He's Chopraying so hard! I had to be able to construct a scientifically valid and reasonably lucid model of how consciousness functions under the influence of the brain hemisphere synchronization technique employed by Gateway. Once this was done, the next step involved recourse to theoretical physics in order to explain the character of the time-space dimension and the means by which expanded human consciousness transcends it in achieving Gateway's objectives. Finally, I again found it necessary to use physics to bring the whole phenomenon of out-of-body experience into the language of physical science to remove the stigma of its occult connotations and put it in a frame of reference suited to objective assessment. 2. I began the narrative by briefly profiling the fundamental biomedical factors affecting such related techniques, such as hypnosis, biofeedback, and transcendental meditation, so that their objective and mode of functioning could be compared in the reader's mind with the Gateway experience as the model of its underlying mechanics was developed. Additionally, that introductory material is useful in supporting the conclusions of the paper. I indicate that at times these related techniques may provide useful entry points to accelerate movement into the Gateway experience. 3. Niels Bohr, the renowned physicist, once responded to his son's complaints about the obtuse nature of certain concepts in physics by saying, "You are not thinking, you are merely being logical. The physics of altered human consciousness deals with some conceptualizations that are not easily grasped or visualized exclusively in the context of ordinary left-brain linear thinking." Oh my god, he's doing the thing! He's doing the thing! Chromatic Cuttlefish says, who was it that pointed out the reason Trump's coup attempt on January 6th failed was there was no nearby U.S. embassy to coordinate logistical support via the CIA? I have no idea. I've not heard that claim. The physics of altered human consciousness deals with some conceptualizations that are not easily grasped or visualized exclusively in the context of ordinary left-brain linear thinking, so to borrow Dr. Bohr's mode of expression, parts of this paper will require not only logic, but a touch of right-brain intuitive insight to achieve a complete, comfortable grasp of the concept involved. AKA, have an open mind to this bullshit, because I cannot demonstrate it in any way. Oh no. Nevertheless, once that is done, I'm confident that their construction and application will stand to the test of rational critique. That didn't seem to happen, did it? 4. Paradoxically, having gone to such great lengths to avoid trying to render judgments based on an occult or dogmatic frame of reference, in the end, I found it necessary to return, at least briefly, to the question of the impact of the Gateway experience on common belief systems. I did so because although it was essential to avoid attempting to render an assessment in the context of such systems, I felt it was necessary, after having completed the analysis, to point out that the resulting conclusions do not do any violence to the fundamental mainstreams of either Eastern or Western belief systems. Unless that point is clearly established, the danger exists that some people will reject the whole concept of the Gateway experience in the mistaken belief that it contradicts and is therefore alien to all that they hold right and true. This study is certainly not designed to be the last word on the subject, but I hope that the validity of its basic structure and the fundamental concepts upon which it is based will make it a useful guide for other USA INSCOM personnel who are required to take the gateway training or work with gateway materials. Gnome Pickle says, "Son, I read your report on the gateway experience and you did really great. However, we would really like to have you looked after by our nice doctors who have this really warm straitjacket for you." In order to describe the Monroe Institute technique for achieving altered states of consciousness, the gateway experience, involving brain hemisphere synchronization, or hemisync, the most effective way to begin is to briefly profile the basic mechanics which underlay operations of related methods such as hypnosis, transcendental meditation, and biofeedback. It's easiest to effectively describe what gateway is by beginning with a short description of those associated techniques that share some common aspects with the gateway experience, but which are nevertheless different. In this way, we can develop a frame of reference at the outset, which will provide useful concepts to explain and understand gateway by comparison as we proceed. So he's trying to lay a groundwork for how altered states of consciousness work using hypnosis and other methods, transcendental meditation and the touch one. What's it called again? Sensory feedback? Something like that. Hypnosis. According to the theories of psychologist Ronald Stone and the biomedical engineering models of Ishtak Bentov, hypnosis is basically a technique which permits acquisition of direct access to the sensory motor cortex and pleasure centers, and lower cerebral, emotional portions, and associated pleasure centers of the right side of the human brain following successful disengagement of the stimulus screening function of the left hemisphere of the brain. The left hemisphere of the brain is the self-cognitive, verbal, and linear reasoning component of the mind. Okay, so again, this is older, so it's based off old information, but we now know that this isn't, like, there are specific, like, regions of the brain that do certain things, but the whole idea that the left brain, right brain has some sort of, like, dynamic between rationality and, like, artistic, freewheeling creativity, that's been debunked. That's been shown not to be true. That's been falsified. That's no longer considered the prevailing, like, understanding of the brain and its hemispheres. So that in and of itself is incorrect. His entire idea here about, like, oh, hypnosis works by things, you know, avoiding your left brain and going to your right brain, or whatever he's gonna say. It's all based on false information anyway, so it's fucked from the start. USA INSCOM is the United States Army Intelligence and Security Command, basically the Army Intelligence Unit. Wow, they wasted a lot of money on this. That sucks. I wonder what stupid bullshit today that the Army and military-industrial complex are spending money on that someone's gonna read in 50 years and laugh at. Like, they're still doing shit like this, probably. Not this specifically, but if you have, you know, as much money as the military does, you're gonna test some weird shit just to check. If the military wants to pay me to do some research on conspiracy theories, I won't ask too much. A couple million. In the federal budget, that's nothing. We're good. Anyway. The right hemisphere, which functions as the non-critical, holistic, non-verbal, and pattern-oriented component of the brain, appears to accept what the left hemisphere passes to it without question. Again, no. Consequently, if the left hemisphere can be distracted either through boredom or through reduction to a soporific semi-sleep state, external stimuli, to include hypnotic suggestions, are all allowed to pass unchallenged to the right hemisphere. Yeah, no. That's not how any of this works. That sucks. Transcendental meditation. On the other hand, transcendental meditation works in a distinctly different fashion. In this technique, intense and protracted single-minded concentration on the process of drawing energy up the spinal cord ultimately results in what appears to be creation of acoustical standing waves in the cerebral ventricles, which are then conducted to the gray matter in the cerebral cortex. I assume that's supposed to end with cortex, or just cerebral. Cuts off. Then there's like a diagram. calls it the homunculus. It's kind of funny. A soporific is a drug for inducing sleep. Thank you. So basically, this just seems like woo-woo. It's research that he was trying to do based on outdated information, and it turned out not to be true. Oh my god. Consciousness energy grid. I know we saw this in the video, but I didn't actually get a chance to read it. Oh boy. How much did he get paid for this? Direction of space, time, space evolving. And then there's like an image like he drew time, space, time. Fucking what? So there's a black hole and a white hole, and the direction of space-time revolves around these things, and there's a hologram? Point where flow of time-space turns toward opposite pole of ovoid. Oh boy. Galactic north, galactic south. Oh no. When you start mixing disciplines, you know things are probably not going well. If you start having to be like, this is about psychology, but also not just that, but cosmology, that's probably when you fucked up a bit. You probably kind of lost the plot.
Of unbelievable complexity. According to the theories of Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist at Stanford University.
What are we looking at? We are looking at conspiracy peeps.
And David Bohm.
This is old research that the army paid someone to do. They got grifted, I think.
Physicist at the University of London, the human mind is also a hologram which attunes itself to the universal hologram.
What does that even mean? That doesn't mean anything. Like, are you using it representatively to say, like if you are trying to step back philosophically and talk about human senses, there's always going to be the problem of trying to understand our own consciousness and senses because you're always using your own consciousness and senses to learn about itself. So there's sort of a problem of the infinite regress, where, okay, metacognition, we can talk about thinking and what it means to think, and think about thinking, but our observations of that are always going to be slaves to those systems? Like, we can't know what we don't know, if that makes sense. Hydrate.
Now, I need to make something very clear because I feel like I'm going to get a lot of comments about this.
Anyway, what I was saying is if you want to use that to describe, like, if you want to use hologram to describe the actual thing and objects are just our perception of them, that's confusing because holograms implies something entirely different. But let's say you used a different word. Let's call it actual mass because it'll make it sound easier. Let's say that you actually want to talk about the difference between objects as we perceive them through senses and actual mass, as in whatever actually exists in physical reality that are these things that I am sensing. I understand that in order to talk about metacognition, to talk about how we perceive and think about things, it is helpful and even necessary at some point to draw a distinction between our perception of objects and the actual objects, whatever they might be, inscrutable to us outside of our own senses. But he's talking about it like these things are actual physically different things as opposed to our interpretation of a thing that is existing. It's like he went a step further and thought, everything is fake! And that's not true or helpful. So that sucks.
It's important to understand the universe is not an external hologram. It doesn't get projected out there like in sci-fi movies. Rather, it gets projected internally.
Okay, he's using them in that way. That makes so much more sense. I had him flipped. Good. Again, what you're saying is still kind of woo-woo, because you're misinterpreting. Remote viewing isn't a thing. It is true that your sense of things is subjective and based on your sensory organs and your brain. That doesn't mean the things are separate or that your consciousness can leave your brain.
So whenever I or the document mentions a hologram, remember that it's not a hologram that's projected externally that you could put your hand through like in movies. It's an internal mental hologram that's solid and interacts with every physical sense, including touch. To understand that better, think about when you go to sleep and dream. You can think about your dream as an internally projected hologram. It actually is.
Sure, but that's not directly correlated with any real non-holographic object, right? That is just something that your brain is making up. But this is based on something that's real. This is a real thing.
Reality is a system of mathematical frequency patterns that are mental, they're not physical, and they create an internal hologram within itself that, when you're tuned into it via the brain, can not only be seen, but also touched, tasted, heard, and sensed in every way. According to this document, the gateway process works by hacking the brain, so to speak, by synchronizing the left and right hemispheres of the brain in such a way that it begins to lift the filtering function that keeps you tuned into the physical universe and allows you to have out-of-body experiences and—
Yeah, that's woo-woo bullshit. Nope.
And experience other dimensions.
Nope.
According to the gateway document, this is no—
It's weird because, like, there is that half understanding that I've been talking about. There is the truth in that, hey, like, you're not experiencing this, you're experiencing the senses of this. Arguable philosophical difference. This is just bullshit, though. Saying that because, like physical things you are viewing subjectively through your own senses does not in any way mean that material reality is therefore not material, as well as your consciousness, and that it can somehow escape that. Like, you have jumped so far. Like, you went about talking about the reality of how we perceive things and went straight into just batshit insanity.
Known as clicking out, and it's done by getting the brainwaves to oscillate at a frequency below a distance known as the Planck distance, which is a fundamental concept in quantum physics, named after one of its founders and Nobel Prize winner, Max Planck. This exact distance is 1.6 times 10 to the negative 35 meters, and according to the document, when the brainwaves reach a frequency at this level that is nearly continuous, consciousness—
Is that even possible? I don't know brain things. Can your brain waves be that they're constant? I wouldn't think so. That would kill you, right? Someone said you'd be like having a seizure. Like, what the fuck?
Clicks out and enters a new world. In fact—
Oh no.
In fact, Max Planck himself said this over 100 years ago. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you as a result of my research about atoms this much. There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particles of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the—
Why must you assume?
The existence
Why
of a
must you
conscious
assume?
and intelligent mind.
God damn, no wonder he put that thing at the beginning that's like, hey, some of this is like woo-woo bullshit. It is. It is. Holy
the
shit.
Mind is the—
He's just positing the existence of some all-intelligent, all-powerful being in order to justify his belief in this out-of-body experience thing.
Matrix of all matter. According to Planck, matter doesn't exist. Everything is—
Rebuttal.
Mind. This is a mental reality. But what does Planck mean by a conscious and intelligent mind being behind all reality? That sounds a lot like God, doesn't it? Well, things are about to get intense because while explaining the process of clicking out to another reality, the document introduces the idea of God known as the Absolute. Between the Absolute and the material universe in which we experience our physical existence are various intervening dimensions to which human consciousness in altered states of being may gain access. The Absolute is conscious energy in infinity that is without—
Was this guy's office at the CIA next to the room where they kept all the LSD?
boundaries. It occupies every dimension to include the time-space dimension in which we have our physical existence, but we cannot perceive it. What is the absolute? According to this document, the absolute is mental energy in infinity that is completely at rest. This energy permeates everything and is responsible for everything. Let me explain. Since this is a reality of mathematical frequencies, of energy, it's a reality of waveforms. Now, these are not physical waves, they're immaterial waves of mind.
That doesn't mean anything. Waves of what? Of mind what?
All waveforms, no matter how complex, can be broken down into simple, basic waves known as sinusoids. In other words, sinusoids are the building blocks of reality. They make everything up. Think about...
just like you.
Legos, for example. You can construct amazingly complex structures with simple Legos, but you can break down those structures into the
if it's not matter, it's energy. If it's energy, it doesn't matter.
Individual basic blocks that make it up. The same idea goes for something like a brick house. The house is a complex...
she's a brick. House.
Like structure, but you can break it down into its individual bricks. Well, the same thing goes for waveforms. Even a wave structure as complicated as the universe itself can be broken down into individual waves known as sinusoids.
Source.
They are the building blocks of existence. The Gateway document is using the term the absolute.
Is this just turning into string theory?
To refer to the infinite energy that gives rise to the...
this is giving me string theory vibes. I'm afraid Michio Kaku is going to jump scare me again.
The entirety of existence. In other words, the energy that is responsible for all creation. But get ready, because this goes even deeper. The term the absolute was popularized in the field of philosophy in the 19th century by philosopher Georg Hegel. So what is the absolute? Well, it's God, but nothing like the kind of God you'd hear about in religion. It's us. Let me explain. According to Hegel, reality is not material, it's actually structured mind. Sound familiar? According to Hegel, the absolute is the ultimate reality and truth, and the entire process of evolution, the creation of the universe, and history is the absolute coming to know itself through itself. In other words...
oh, the egg. Like the egg short story. You could have just said that. Just say, I think this is a thing. Read this fiction short story called The Egg.
Projects what seems like a physical world from itself and then inserts itself into its own self-generated world as human beings. In other words, we are the absolute, experience the world that we generated. Now, the absolute isn't actually self-aware yet. You see, it doesn't do this knowingly. It's like it's asleep and dreaming, and unconsciously creates a dream world and then inserts itself into its dream through human beings. And so
that doesn't make any goddamn sense. This is also a bit from Alice in Wonderland. No, not Alice in Wonderland. Through the Looking Glass. The one where they're all the dreams of the Red King or whatever. And they're all pieces in his dream, and if he wakes up, everyone will disappear.
It experiences its own world.
Seems too narcissistic? Yeah. Basically solipsistic, too. This is just solipsism with extra steps. This is socially acceptable solipsism.
Through humans, but it doesn't know that it's doing so. It gets lost in its own dream world. In other words, humans are the absolute, but don't know it. The absolute only becomes...
if everyone's the absolute, then no one is. Syndrome, Incredibles. And if what you're saying is true, then I wrote Incredibles, which is pretty boss. Cult of Cautious Optimism says, fun fact, the philosopher is directly referenced on the lore of the Destiny video game universe as the source of its magic system. The universe basically is a simulation of two opposing forces playing out. That's weird. I didn't like Destiny. I tried. Couldn't do it.
Conscious when humans realize that's what they are. You are the absolute, but you don't know it. But you could. You could know it right now.
You can know it right now.
You could begin to wake up to the reality of what you are. The reality that you are God experiencing.
I'd rather help bring the Basilisk into existence. That's the project I'm working on in terms of woo-woo virtual reality bullshit that nonsense idiots on the internet make up, so I only have room for one of those.
Its own world. And all of us are doing the same thing. The gateway process states, we have implied that this
Phyllis Filler says, dialectics! Don't make me go Lacanian on your fucking ass.
This universal hologram is the finite embodiment in active energy form of the infinite consciousness of the Absolute. It is the title we assigned to that vast pool of energy in a state of perfect rest over which the physical universe is layered and from whence it comes. Our consciousness, therefore, is that differentiated aspect of the universal consciousness which resides within the Absolute.
I'm all for, like, really complicated philosophical arguments and ways about thinking about things, especially when we're talking about consciousness, because it's such a weird, subjective thing we don't know enough about. Like, neuroscience is still a very young science. So, I get that we need to talk about things in kind of weird, vague terms that are obviously going to turn out to not be entirely accurate until someday in the future we maybe figure out more material ways of explaining things and phenomena. But oh boy, sometimes people tie themselves into knots, and I think he did it. He did it. He got so far up into conceptual hell, he couldn't escape. He couldn't escape the philosophical hole he found himself in, and that sucks. Ugh.
Consciousness is able to separate from physical reality.
Why does he seem like he's reading a fake doc from Reddit? He's not. I looked it up. It's on the CIA's website. This is a real government document. It's just that the CIA paid for someone who turned out to be a woo-woo person. Which is funny, and not the only time that's happened, you know?
And interact with other intelligences in other dimensions within the universe, and that it is both eternal and destined for ultimate return to the Absolute. The document then goes on to explain exactly what Hegel proposed, that is, that the Absolute projects itself to explore itself and comes to self-awareness, self-conscious knowledge of itself. In order for the Absolute to attain self-consciousness, the consciousness of the Absolute must project a hologram of itself and then perceive it. That hologram is a mirror image of the Absolute in infinity, still exists outside time and space, but is one step removed from the Absolute and is the actual agent of all creation.
Oh, that's good. It's going through the mirror stage. Good for the Absolute.
All reality. Then, on that very sentence,
just hope he doesn't get stuck here. I really don't want to deal with the universe being a narcissist. Lots of psych jokes today.
Just as the gateway document is explaining exactly what the Absolute is, how it comes to self-consciousness through itself, and that this is the true force of creation that religion has believed to be God, the next page is missing. Page 25 is not there. The document picks up again on page 26, but it's
probably where they talked about doing a bunch of drugs, and the CIA was like, yeah, we're not going to release that.
Completely switched topics. The rest of the document is included. Every single page from page 1 to page 30 is there until the end of the document, but page 25 is gone, right when it was beginning to reveal the true nature of the Absolute as the agent of all creation and how it's coming to self-knowledge, the true nature of God. The question is, what is on page 25? Since the reports...
It's like the end of National Treasure 2, we don't get to know.
Initial declassification in 2003, countless requests under the Freedom of Information Act have been filed demanding that this...
That's the most obnoxious transition I've ever seen, oh my god.
CIA release page 25, but the CIA claims they never had it. Fortunately, we now have the missing page, thanks to an article by Vice about the gateway.
The SCP Foundation redacted it. I wish there was an SCP Foundation.
Process. Vice received a note from the Monroe Institute 4 days after publishing an article about the Gateway Report. The Institute said they had page 25, that it had been sitting in their archives all along. Now, Vice tried to obtain the page during a phone call with the Institute's CEO, COO, and marketing division, but they refused to release it without a carefully orchestrated marketing plan. But eventually, after a major organizational change, the Monroe Institute's Director of Marketing and Communications emailed Vice with the full Gateway Report, including missing page 25. The question is, what is on page 25? Was something about it too shocking to include? First, the missing page heavily implies this information could unite the world religions. It states...
He did it. He cracked the code. He did it.
The absolute fits the Christian
Have I heard of Turtle Boy? Who's Turtle Boy? Give me a elevator pitch on Turtle Boy. You want me to do an episode on Turtle Boy? Pitch me, go.
metaphysical description of the Holy Spirit. Finally, our description of the universal hologram, the torus of creation and evolution, is neither new nor original. Its use as the figure of the universe, of creation, developing, and evolution is found in various stylized representations in virtually every religious system of antiquity.
Jesus Christ. He thought he was gonna scientifically prove Christian concepts. Oh no.
Whether of Eastern or Western derivation, whether it's the stylized
Fake investigator who had a sex cult? Sold. I'll check him out. Let me actually do that right now. Before I forget. Turtle Boy. This guy? Have I seen... Oh, that's great. Yeah, Service is awesome. We're planning on doing something during the subathon. I don't know if he just got busy or what. This guy's the fake guy who has the sex cult? Is this him? Or is it a different person? Where were we? On the crazy thing? Yeah.
labyrinth, once popular in the Hellenic world, the spiralized version of the Hebrew tree of life, or its Hindu counterpart, or the Chinese
derivation as if the religions are related by a common root. That's kind of a prerequisite. If you're a person who thinks that there is some sort of spiritual or religious significance in the world, you have to assume that all of them have some sort of root. Otherwise, why is there one real religion and a bunch of fake ones? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense. So you kind of have to do this and explain it that way if you want to continue with the woo.
Spiral through the fourfold powers. The ultimate meaning is the same. Mystics the world over, it seems, have perceived the universal hologram in the same spiral form and have incorporated that intuitive knowledge in their religious writings from antiquity.
Intuitive knowledge is not a statement you ever want to hear anyone write in a goddamn paper. Dr. Gamble says I stepped out for a while. This is just rambling of some crazy doctors the CIA had? Yeah, basically.
To the present. Next, the missing page begins to talk about an aphorism used in mystical philosophy and esoteric circles. The aphorism, know thyself. The Gateway document states, it was axiomatic to the mystic philosophers of old that the first step in personal maturity could be expressed in the aphorism, know thyself. No modern test in psychology will ever replace the depth and fullness of the perception of self, which can be achieved when the mind alters its state of consciousness sufficiently to perceive the very hologram of itself, which it has projected into the universe in its proper context as
This is the 80s. You can just say metacognition. There's a fucking word for it. This didn't come out in This is a document from the 80s. This came out in the early 2000s, but it wasn't written in, the 40s. We know about metacognition. The whole field of fucking psychology exists.
Part of the universal hologram in a totally holistic and intuitional way. This would seem to be one of the real promises of the Gateway experience from the standpoint of its ability to provide a portal through which...
Word salad on the bingo card.
Based on months, if not years of practice, the individual may pass in his search to find self, personal effectuality, and truth in the larger sense. Now hold on, what does this mean exactly? What does know thyself have to do with anything? Well, the full aphorism is, know thyself and you shall know the universe and the gods. This means that when you truly know yourself, when you know what you are, you'll know the universe and the gods. Why? Because you are the universe and the gods.
This is funny, since this is apparently accidentally the Lacan stream, since, talked about it earlier multiple times. Part of his work had to do with, and I mentioned this briefly, quite the opposite. Your identity is relative to the place you are. You build an identity relative to things that already exist within your culture, not the other way around. So, people who have dealing with senses of problems with identity, not knowing who they are, feeling ambivalent about themselves. These sort of feelings, A, make people more prone to finding bullshit conspiratorial worldviews, which is unfortunate, because they're looking for meaning, and if they can't derive it from things in the real world, they'll manufacture it because our identities exist relative to other things. If we don't have a solid understanding of our environments, of our culture, of our societies, government, social groups, then we have a hard time knowing where we fit in and defining ourselves as individuals.
You are...
How do you spell that name? Lacan. L-A-C-A-N. Jacques Lacan. Jacques Lacan? Jacques Lacan? I'm sorry, I gotta do it. It's in my head now.
Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan.
Jacques Lacan.
All reality. You, we, all of us are the absolute, exploring itself through its own dream world. Interesting that information that could result in a possible unification of the world religions and human beings achieving the true knowledge of what they are and what existence is through self-knowledge was omitted. Just like in the Garden of Eden, knowledge of the self and that you can become
It's
God.
called structuralism. Yeah. Structuralists... Wait, structuralism was like pre-Freud, right? And then Freud came along and was like, this is unhelpful. This is so unhelpful. We can't do this. And he had his own things that were wrong. But, you know, it was a building process. And Lacan came after Freud.
This knowledge.
And worked through, like, what, the 50s to the 80s? Something like that? Was this when a lot of his work was done? Or did he die in the 80s? He had died in the 80s.
Is always forbidden. While not everything in this document is entirely accurate, it's decades old after all. Its major points are exactly right. Humanity is on the brink of a new beginning, a new consciousness. And once we all understand that we are the absolute experiencing ourselves in our own diversity and transformations, we'll realize that we're all in this together.
And then, and then Freud came along and projected all over everything. But we do know he projected. So, we learned something. No, I was in the shower yesterday and I was listening to the audiobook for Freud's, the book of like Introduction to Psychoanalytics. And it's a series of talks he gave. Translated, of course. I don't speak German or whatever the fuck language he spoke. But as much as we talk about like, yeah, you know, people have misgivings about Freud because he did really stupid shit and did fucked up shit and had weird ideas that he was clearly projecting from his own stuff. But also, like, even in that first talk, even then he was like, hey, I know a lot of this is bullshit. I just don't know how to talk about this. I'm developing a way of talking about this, basically. If we're going to try and learn about human psychology, if we're going to learn about ourselves and our own mental states, we need to have basically a language to talk about these things. We need to have some sort of baseline from which we can all communicate about this. He said that, like, in the introduction. He was like, yep, it's not gonna be great. You're not always gonna agree with me, but learn this shit and disagree with me later. Which, hey, you know, I can respect that if I, you know, even don't respect the person for all the bad shit he did, but, yeah.
And instead of fighting and attempting to destroy each other, we'll finally begin to work together to construct a brilliant new world. And that's exactly what we're here to do. Join us spreading a new consciousness and constructing a new world. Now, this is just a taste of what's in this document. The rest is incredible, and I'll be exploring it in detail on my channel. So make sure you like and subscribe.
The logo in the back looks kind of like the logo for, like, OBS. Did anyone else notice that? Is that intentional? Looks like evil OBS. I'll even go back so you can see it. I don't know if it was covered, I guess. It's like OBS, but from the mirror universe. Alright, well, we've been going for over 3 hours. Shannon Cranky Pants, thanks for 13 months. It's a triskeleton. Wait, triskelion. Common symbol used for the kink community, too. Well, now I gotta look up what that represents. It was only last... Nope. Hannah... No, I didn't say it! I didn't say it! Good, good, good. Okay. So no one won bingo, so I'm just gonna gift the sub randomly on, You know what? Now we have to actually pick. Do I gift a sub on Twitch, or do I gift a membership on YouTube? We'll flip a coin. You're fine, Fennikagami. Fennikagami, I'm not upset with you at all. I don't want you to feel that way. Don't feel, like, guilty or like we can have, like, disagreements and talk about it. You're good. You're good. I just feel like it's my response, you know, if you have me breed something on stream, if it's something I disagree with or feel needs a little nuance injected, I feel a responsibility to, you know, do that. But nothing against you. I get how frustrating it can feel. I do that too. On stream and off stream, I've said and done things that later I'm like, I was really heated. I was upset, and it affected my ability to, like, talk about this issue in a specific way. And that's a large part because I'm, like, on the internet, too. You are not a person talking to other people. You're not using a platform necessarily to like, try and convince people of things. But as this is my platform, I just feel like it's my responsibility to make sure messages that come out here are wrapped within my feelings on them, so as not to give the impression I agree with something that is said here that I don't. But we're good. Let's see. YouTube. How do I buy a sub on YouTube? Let me figure this out real quick. Put it over here. Go to YouTube. That music. How smooth. Ooh. Let's see. How do I gift? I'm figuring it out, Chad. I'm sorry. Where is it? There we go. Membership gifting. Took me a second. Let's see who wins the membership. It's going to be random. Let's see. Tessa was gifted the sub on YouTube. So congrats, Tessa, for the random gift sub since no one else won. Alrighty, well, let's see who we're going to raid. Someone asked me to raid someone specific. Let's see who that was. Oh, thanks, Shannon Cranky Pants. I know someone... Sorry, for some reason I'm having trouble finding this message now. I know someone said, hey, can you, like, raid at someone? There it is. I found it, Mr. Whiskers. Okay. Brandy and Mr. Whiskers. That fucking song. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Love you too, Mr. Blast. Oh, didn't come up. Wait, remove the at, obviously. No, what? It's not coming up. Is the name correct? I don't see anything. Okay, I'm gonna raid elsewhere then, unless there's a correction in just a sec. Give it a sec, because sometimes there's a little bit of a lag. Squid. Let's try this again. SQID AEDIR. There we go. Don't know why that didn't come the first time.
You know where I've been.
Alright. Have a good night, everyone. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like the stream. Maybe throw a comment if you'd like. If you're on Twitch, good to see you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Don't know what we'll be doing tomorrow. Maybe Chud Watch again. Maybe finish up that Elon clip. If there's anything of interest in the last 30 minutes. If not, we'll find something. We still got to continue with the Pickup Artist reality show, which is a nightmare. That's fun. We'll do something. I'll see you then. Have a wonderful evening. Good night. YouTube people. I know you still see me.